It kind of behooves you to know what they have to say, right? I mean, trading it is a different thing. We trade price action, baby, right?
Yeah,
so
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter too much for us as an intraday trade. But if you're gonna get into the company, at least hear what these short sellers have to say about Adara. Who was the company that threw in what's it called, the short report on Carvana? Was it the Bear Cave or who was it? Okay. Makes sense. Thank you for that.
I have Kerrisdale Capital was the most recent one.
Kerrisdale,
and then Market Beat also had one as well too.
Market Beat, so Hindenburg. Oh man, wow, these guys are loaded right now.
Yeah, there you go. Kerrisdale Capital with the most current one in February of 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't know anything again fundamentally about the company, but that's what we're just conveying messages to you guys, and it's kind of on you to make the decisions. But oh my goodness, did you notice the time?
I did.
I didn't.
2:02.
I didn't notice the time. All right, guys. It is, okay, I guess Adara's audio wasn't working there for a second. Yeah, it's all good, Adara, no worries. All right, guys, we are overtime. It is time to send you to the dudes on the bottom of the screen. Sean's not in, so I think we're going to need to change that to Obi. But yeah, the big kahunas are to our right. Joseph, send him off.
Go Leafs, go.
Bang.
End it with a little go Leafs go. Great job on the midday, boys. A lot of wild action. I mean, a lot of wild action, but really you can sum up a lot of the movement in, man, did they fade the living you-know-what out of that run into 20,000. The algos are doing a job on this market of not doing their job. That means anytime there's it's a press conference or a headline, whatever you want to call it, we get that glide up. They stop making a market, and then the smart ones are just fading that.
The traders are doing their job in that case.
The traders are doing their job. Like they stop making a market, you get the move up, and then all they're doing is fading it at the technical level and shorting the crap out of it. Now, the one day when it's an actual tariff deals are done, they're going to get blown out. But for now, that 20,000 rejection is one of the big stories. I'm only in SMCI left, and we'll talk about some Palantir. NVIDIA's got a weird thing going on to it, but first let's get to the desk with Adara.
Really quickly, as we have that pop up, I'm seeing this headline circulate around on X, the Financial Times reporting that the US and UK are close to a trade pact with lower tariffs. Furthermore, apparently this deal is set to be signed this week. So again, guys, just to repeat, Financial Times reporting that the US and the UK are apparently close to a trade pact, which would include lower tariffs. The deal is set to be signed this week. For his part today, Donald Trump told people to stop asking him about when things are going to be signed. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. But Financial Times reporting that we could get a deal between the US and UK as early as this week. Also, for the thing I said there without my microphone, which again, I apologize for. Basically, I was just saying that Hindenburg was the last major Carvana short report in my recollection. Hindenburg also did the Carvana short report last before they ended up closing their doors earlier this year. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Adara. Hymns, high day.
Wow. Wasn't there something about a short float that might have been just north of a 25%?
Well, I mean,
30%.
I think there was an idiot that was saying this was over 30% short float, and like that dude probably should have held on to the long from VWAP. But I don't know who that guy is anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Handsome gentleman though.
Shout out to Wayne. I saw some of his trades from earlier. He had the long.
He had the long.
Off the open. I was like,
open
beautiful,
long.
beautiful.
And we were saying this. I was joking about this in the lesson of the day. That don't at me, but there's no chance there was a better long than the open long on HIMS.
Yep.
Flat out. That being said,
one of the best trades.
No, actually, look, there wasn't a better long than the open trade on HIMS. But I would venture to say, and this is weird because we joked about Ford being a nothing burger, right? There was no easier technical trade today than Ford. I promise you this. If you have not seen this chart, this is an all-timer for Ford. What's the pre-market? Let's follow along, everybody. What's the pre-market high right here? $9.99. So what's your breakout at the open? Literally $10 even. What does it do off $10 even? Goes clean, no red candles till it gets to 1040. That is a 99 top, an even dollar break, and a quick 40-cent move. Oh, but it pulls back, you say, Neil. It pulls right back in here. What's this bottom? $10.21. Well, that couldn't, no, it couldn't. It couldn't possibly be, no. Prior day resistance at $10.21 to the penny. That is the easiest technical trade I've seen in a while. And I'm laughing out loud, but I'm mostly laughing at myself for not even looking at Ford today. And it just goes to show you never really know where the best opportunity is going to come from. Because I'll tell you right now, it's done 100 million shares on Ford. Like Hims is a big move. But for most day traders, the ability to simply hit 01s on Ford and get that kind of a move, or dip into here and go long 23 into a 21 level, like that's just risk to reward. That's just going to make you more money in the long run because you're able to leverage it better with a tighter stop and you're not risking much to make a lot. And with Hims, it's just a different story. Like I get it, Hims is absolutely flying, but you take that break, you're losing much more on Hims, relatively speaking, if it goes wrong for you. So yeah, I mean, you shouldn't rule out something just because most of the time it's not good enough, Ford's boring stock. It doesn't mean you can't have an alert set up or watch it to see if it does give you an obvious trade setup. So yeah, it was there, but rightfully so, people were looking at Hims and Palantir today, and I can't say anything wrong about that. It's the right idea because they are the most volatile stock.
I mean, in the recent wise words of President Trump and as well as Justin Bieber, never say never. So that's something to watch out for. Ford, I did say never this morning.
You know what's also a Bond?
And guess what? It was
a Bond movie. Before it was any of those things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Never say never.
Bond. James Bond. All right. So Palantir again. That's been on my watch throughout the lunch hour, the midday session as well. Kind of I guess where did we leave you guys? Left you guys around 11 o'clock. Took that VWAP reversion on Palantir all the way up into VWAP, and guess what? My original idea was getting short off of the open and looking for sellers to step into VWAP. And I did get short on that VWAP. But guess what? I cover everything on this 108 hold, which is fine. Okay, but guess what? 109 comes in, breaks trend once again. I gotta re-engage. I did not do that. That gives you 109s all the way down to 106s. I get a little chopped up here for an attempt at a long because I'm like, I missed the short. But since then, we've pretty much been holding. And I was talking to Neil about this as well. Early in the morning, some strong reasons to buy maybe showing up in and around that 106 halves. Sure, we drop a little bit lower. We make some lows of 105s and change. But take a look at that 106 kind of coming right back in as a little bit of a level hold once again in the later end of the session. We're getting that push back up into VWAP as of right now, 108s on Palantir. But yeah, that definitely one of the main watches for today, but not the only opportunity, right? We had so many other earnings names today. Ford coming in. As well, really nicely, and I guess we had some of those earnings day 2 plays as well. We were talking about that RXRX. If you pull up that chart, that thing had a beautiful continuation from prior day
only if you're
right
short,
here.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, of course, only if you're short. But here's the thing: I think yesterday kind of told you who was in charge, right? Right there, boom. All day selling right there into 475s. Nice, beautiful continuation. VWAP hold as well. It gives you, I guess, high a day around 467s, currently trading at 422s. But yeah, still lots of opportunity. That's what I want to emphasize here. Lots of opportunity regardless of whether you're looking at, the shiniest thing on the block, which, yeah, today is Palantir and Hims a little bit as well. But yeah. Opportunity nonetheless, but let's see what you guys voted on with the rundown.
I feel like those two names are on there.
They are.
Yeah. No, not it. Palantir and Hims.
Welcome to the afternoon rundown, everyone. The show where you decide what we talk about every afternoon. OB in for Sean today, as you saw. But the boys are locked in, they're loaded, and they're ready to look at the tickers as decided by you. But the only way to get those tickers up there is to join Joe and I on the midday show and get into the chat and vote for your favorite tickers every day, but only the top few make it on. And you got to be a subscriber in order to engage with us and vote. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing. Before we look at the 4 major averages, I want to let you guys know that Alex Karp is live on CNBC right now with Brian Sullivan. He's also making pronouncements that Palantir will be working with Elon Musk's XAI going forward. More details on that to come, but he is live, so keep your eye out on Palantir for any price action. Here's a look at the 4 major averages. The NQ, or the Qs, down 1% on the day. Likewise, here, same kind of look with the ES down 0.86. The Russell 2000, the worst of the bunch right now, down 1 1/3, and the Dow down 1% even. So all 4 major averages in red territory. Here's the first look. Palantir, Alex Karp live, guys, down markedly today, almost 13%, 12.8, but off the lows, despite beating on the top and bottom line, guys, and guiding well. Looks as if maybe it was a sell the news kind of event. Not really sure what to make of this.
I mean, we talked about this last night. Sometimes when you literally double up from April, what is that? April 7th. When you literally double up, and I'm saying literally because it was 60, like the low was 65 and the high is 130. 130 pretty much to a dime. When you literally double up, it doesn't matter how much you're growing. I think forget about the price to sales and the PE. There was a point that got made on the midday, and apologies, I don't remember whether it was Joe or Sharif that said this, but either way, it was kind of a brilliant one there. Talking about the fact that they haven't even reached $1 billion in sales quarterly, and people are talking about $1 trillion market cap in the next couple of years. Dan Ives specifically, I believe, it was the one that mentioned that. But sometimes you just get this kind of a sell because of the valuation and how far it's gone. So of course there's profit taken. The second you saw it in the afternoon show, the second it was underneath 125 in the market recap, there was just no stopping it. It couldn't get back there. Once it was back underneath that all-time prior high that it made. Now, even though it's down this much, it hasn't even filled in this gap to $100. Which is the obvious place that I think it's headed to. I unsuccessfully tried to go long it twice, and then unfortunately went short it. I'm gonna call it once, although you can make an argument like I was adding to it, but I only shorted it once. And Obi and I have discussed this many times. Sometimes, a lot of times when you have a reversion trade or trade off a level, sometimes the first time it's really good, and the second time it's probably not gonna be as good. Well, this case, it was much better. And we like the volume-weighted average price has been good on Palantir. But what I've noticed is the opening range where it tried to bounce here initially at 109. It's this candle that showed sellers stayed in control all the way to 110. So from about 108 half to 110, sellers are in control. If you just let it get into that price, that's where it's been fading. So I'm not even convinced. We break VWAP here. I'm not even convinced it's a long until it breaks out 110. So it needs to break 110 for there to be some afternoon long for me on PLTR. Otherwise, I'll wait. I'll gladly let it drift in here, see if it can't reject in the 109 to 109 half area, and look for the continuation short because it feels like this wants to head to $100, at least reasonably in terms of filling in that gap on the daily chart. Which, remember, if it gets to $100, anyone that bought, even here, missing 10% of the move, would still be in the money 33%. So it's like these types of moves aren't crazy, and they actually make technical sense when you reject a high like this.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty solidly there on Palantir. Again, this thing has taken us for quite a ride right off of the open, right? Strong reason to sell, got short off of the open. Covered a little too early on that 109, but you get that 113 flush, bit of a continuation off of the open. We saw that earnings it's sold off onto earnings, so we were looking for a potential continuation off the open. We got that pretty aggressively. Again, an SSR name that's trading over 10% lower from its closing price and coming in with longs hitting the bid. We talked about who can sell into the bid on an SSR name. Definitely the bid's getting hit right off of the open. Nice little reversion off that 105 mark. But since then, we've pretty much been trading a little sideways in the range of that reversion leg. And yeah, I think Neil is definitely right there. I see the 110, 109 area as well. I think yeah, unless and until it can properly hold and get above that in a distinct manner, I think that I'm going to be continuing to look for supply to come in and around 109s to 110s, just looking for more of the same. If it shows that there is the action is distinctly different and the situation has changed, maybe we do buy up all of those prices, then I'm more than willing to be wrong on that thesis and idea and maybe flip positions as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens going into the close here. But Palantir in the morning session, midday session as well, great opportunities. As of right now, reverting back to VWAP, so we'll see what it has in store for us. 109 is only 20 pennies away.
More weakness today for Tesla, down more than 2 1/3 right now. A couple of different headlines here, one out of Europe, one regarding the Cybertruck. So it looks like Tesla new car sales, that is, hitting 2-year lows in both England and Germany. We've kind of seen this trend with European sales going to the downside here. Separately, Tesla apparently has over 10,000 units of unsold Cybertrucks just in the United States amid reports here, inventory glut. To be honest with you guys, when I went and tested out the Cybertruck, I saw the same thing on this side of the border, so no surprise here.
Another day, more bad news for Tesla in terms of demand. And unfortunately, Tesla caught between a rock and a hard place. As another thing that got said on the midday. This one I know was Sharif who was talking about this, and sort of, you know, like right now you have the sentiment against Elon Musk and Tesla, and unfortunately, it's not necessarily. It's the people that are more likely to buy EVs that are not feeling it right now, and it's not a good spot for them. And Europe is going to need a smaller model. That's a big problem regardless of any sentiment shift. But let's be real, somebody's selling Tesla in the 290s. And they're winning big every time it gets, because it was really strong going into that level, into the 200-period moving average. And today it was just a continuation day. Now, granted, you know, I don't think you have a crazy range in Tesla. For most people, you might call it a disappointing range. That's why people are probably looking at HIMS and Palantir and everything else, the things that are reporting tonight, like AMD. NVIDIA's not doing anything, SMCI as well, but Tesla descending wedge into a flat bottom-ish in that low 270s. So Tesla, believe it or not, this afternoon does have a decent chance at a breakout. You break this descending wedge. Oops, I don't even have my drawing tool up. It's weird. I feel like I always have that drawing tool up, and then sometimes it fails me. Like, it's breaking trend right now on Tesla. Like, this would be the close above the trend line right here on Tesla as we speak. So it's actually not that bad in terms of a look. It's held the bottom where you would expect it to. It never really challenged 270, and it's attempting a little bit of a break. And ultimately, I don't think, even if it rallies from here, I don't think it's out of the water in the short term. But for a day trade, it's actually looking a little bit appealing here for a bit of a trend reversal. This closes, I want this to close above just for a little confirmation, and then I'd want to jump in. It's not enough that you close one bar above, because it's done that before and completely rejected then right after that. So I want some confirmation, and then maybe take a shot at this long for a scalp trade on Tesla.
Tesla was on my watch this morning, but again, not one of my top ideas, because I'm like, all right, well, we kind of did sell off of that 290 area, which is very clear that it has been acting as a bit of a supply zone over the past couple of weeks. We stepped down a little bit there, but I was like, yeah, 270s is the low of the range right here. You can see, look at these lows right here. 272s, 270, what is that low? 270.79. I don't think we even got there today. Today's low is 271.31. So unless and until we can catch a proper break of this downtrend from the high of the range right here. So I'm looking at it as a bit of a range trade as well. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching some of that to see if the bid comes in. Probably not today, but yeah, prior day high and today's day high as well will definitely have to be taken out in that, or today's day high and then prior day high as well in that specific order for me to be like, all right, well, maybe we're traveling back to 290s. But what do I know? If the market kind of pulls back in and if Tesla breaks down this 270, we talked about the lows of the bigger picture trend. Wow, I do have a lot of indicators here, but a lot of them mean nothing as of right now. But you can see right here, 220s is the low of the bigger range right here. We've been in about a 35% range from those 220s all the way to 290s. But yeah, Tesla coming in to test some of those prior week lows. I'm curious to know, Neil, are we going to break down a little bit more going into the close? This NASDAQ holding below 20,000 is definitely interesting to me as well. Prior day low on, holding below prior day lows on these futures.
All right, the next one here, guys, is HIM's fantastic breakout here, taking out highs as we speak. This company reported, well, they were trading lower earlier. They definitely reported interesting financial results. Company issued Q2 guidance below estimates. Didn't change the price action, though, guys. Up 16 1/3% at the day's highs.
Just confirming something which I thought might have been cool with Fabian, because you guys saw the siren go off, and it was coincidentally at the exact same moment that my trail on SMCI hit. So I was like, oh snap! No way they got it set up that automatically on a fill the siren went off, but it was a complete coincidence.
Oh, okay.
So I was that you? Oh, so it was Joe. No, but the timing was unreal. I was like, oh my goodness, that's sick if we've got that set up, because that'd be really cool. Before we get to HIMS, I did have a trial. I did a scalp trade on SMCI, which probably, like, if I don't draw the trend line, you're like, why in the blue blazers would you get in at that price? It doesn't even make any sense. But if you look at the break early of the high of the day, and then I just simply went with like that trend breaking. So like you go, this is the morning high break. There's your trend. I broke that trend line, scalp into VWAP, and then hold some for the bigger move with a break even stop. It broke out, so I'm out of the trade. Would have been cool. I think that'd be really awesome if we could. I think the problem with that is it couldn't distinguish. It would have to be a new position because it couldn't be every single fill. Otherwise, the siren would be a pain in the butt. HIMS. All right, let's get it out of the way. Should have held on to the long. Got trailed out once, got trailed out twice, and ultimately, like one of them had to do with that spike up on the future. And when that happened, I think it was like a revert the move kind of situation in my brain. So I was long in HIMS, and when it broke, when the futures broke down under that 20,000, I'm like, nope, let's just get out of this. It's just that futures play. But it was a buy right back in off of the volume weighted average price. So clearly, this is a big one for HIMS. It's going squeezing at this point. We talked about the 43. That's where you got the dip buy off of around the volume weighted average price, and now it's holding well above that prior high in the daily. It's not a blue sky setup because there is a high up here, and there's just nothing standing in its way. Psychologically, you'll have the $50 level. Obviously, that'll come into play potentially today. But I still think there might be a chance to buy some dips in here, but there have not been any. There were good dips this morning, but there has been nothing this afternoon. It's just gliding higher, and it's a little too far for me to chase this. It's close to 50, but I'd like to try to take a shot at a dip if we can get it. But wow. Most of the time, I'd look at a move like this and say you mean reverted off 50 because it's such a steady trend up. But I'm just gonna back off and be patient with it. We should have held on to it. Obviously, the long worked, but it should have worked for more than like a buck and a half a couple times when this move is $4.
Yeah, I think HIM's the biggest thing is the short float that we kind of discussed in the morning there, and the continuation of this prior high break. I even said this in that is, what did I just do? PLTR, don't do that. Okay, so we'll go down to the 3-minute here on HIMS and take a look at that. So I was like, okay, well, if there is one indicator I do want to put on this chart is the anchored VWAP from this pop here. So you can see that push, some strong relative volume, more relative volume than I guess, well, it was in the morning, more relative volume than we were doing in the pre-market session, but you can see finally kind of discussed to see if the open is going to give us more volume than this event that we had on last Tuesday, and we did get that. So here's the thing. That reaction high right there, also prior day high at that 43. Look at the breakout of that. Beautiful, nice little push, pulls back right into that level and then catches another bid for that continuation. Now we're slowly grinding back up. 49s, Neil. So this is definitely poised for a little bit of a 50 test, I would say. And if this happens to be to hold up as a strong continuation, I think we're going to start seeing more of the action related to that 30% short float. maybe for a multi-day continuation. But what do I know? Let's see if the bid continues. Let's see if VWAP buyers continue to hold this thing in place.
Before we go back,
you can see right there, one test, two test. Nice push of the highs. What's going on, Neil?
So before we get back, I got to see if I can find this headline. All the nuclear names are going. SMR, NNE, I believe Oklo as well. I don't know if I see it on. I heard it in my ear that some kind of executive action to speed up adaptation of growth in the nuclear sector is causing this secondary pop in a bunch of them. So NNE's gone. SMR just made a new high of the day. I'm unable to actually find the headline visually. Thank you. Adair is going to send it to me, and I'll get it to you guys in the chat. So if you're trading any of those NNE, SMR, all flying to the upside, just broke some fresh highs there as well. So they're looking really, really strong at this moment. Let's go talk about Uber, one of the big names reporting after the bell.
All right, guys, Uber after the bell today, so we'll keep an eye on that. It's flat at the moment, but trading very much near the high end of the range. It's about a $60 low range, about $85 to the high side, trading about $85.38, so good look for Uber. Last time around, they posted bookings of $43.5 billion for bookings on revenue of 11.75. The street was looking for 42.9 and 11, a little bit less than 11 2/3, so they beat last time around. Make sure to catch the market recap today with Adair and I. We're going to be covering Uber for you guys as well as Rivian.
Just to get the headline. I always want to make sure we get it right. Trump planning executive action aimed at speeding up nuclear reactors deployment. That's from Axios. So, and Uber's tomorrow morning. Distinction without a difference. We don't get to trade it post earnings until tomorrow either way. So Uber, we'll let you get to Palantir very quickly. Uber, double top on the daily. That's probably the only reason why it's not rallying stronger than it is. Because it was all morning long, this is a super strong name that just simply rejected that 86 level. And I think it's got a decent chance to break that out on a good print tomorrow. They've been taking over the robotaxi game, and they seem to be the front runner, according to a lot. It's just the concern you would have is the all-time high concern, or the fresh high concern, I should say, what Palantir just ran into. Where if you lose this 86 level at any point in the aftermarket, the acceleration that likely comes in because people are up so much if they just bought the recent dip. And so anybody swinging this into earnings is probably thinking, you know, if it let it fly if it breaks the high, but once it gets back under 86 or 85, they're just probably going to take their profit. Why not? It's been so good over there in Uber. But I might start focusing in on this SMR and some of these nuclear names if they're going to really continue, because they're all in these juicy consolidations with a lot of room to rally here. SMR specifically at 18, potential break.
Yeah, I think again, Uber definitely on watch. I think Uber again. We have earnings after the close, but we had that related news with Uber and was it WRD with the WeRide, I think.
WRD.
WRD. That was the ticker right there. So that one you can see, as you can see today, nice relative volume. Look at this push that we've had. Look at the reclaim of opening range high as well. Once we kind of broke out of that, plus some of these pre-market going into the open consolidation highs right there, you can see we've gotten a pretty strong continuation there on WeRide. But yeah, Uber definitely one to watch out today after hours. Could be a strong potential opportunity for tomorrow when it comes in with its earnings day one. So let's take a quick look at a higher time frame and see what it's been doing. Tomorrow morning. Well, after today is basically what I'm saying. Tomorrow's earnings day one. That's all that really matters to me. And we can see that it's been baiting up from 60.02s all the way to 86.57 current high. So strong trend into earnings is what I'm seeing here on Uber. Let's see if it can give us a little bit of a ride tomorrow.
Right, the last on the list here, NVDA, kind of flat on the day, but looking to take out highs over here as it works back into that 114 area. Good headline today was ServiceNow looking at bringing agentic AI. You got to like this headline because this is a B2B headline, guys, for agents. Obviously being called agentic AI. High margin business, B2B, boys.
Just quick look. I'm going to get to NVIDIA in a quick second, but with SMR, all of the call them the nuclear names in there. They were breaking up. There was a nice print for a scalp trade on the breakout trade, like initially. Like it broke 18, I got 9s, you could have scalped for 10 pennies. It immediately came back out. Actually, not even sure how I got out at 1801 on an 18 stop. Like I was like, oh, if it breaks 18, I'll just get out of the trade. And then I got out of that at 1801, which doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. Maybe in the moment it was breaking 18, someone bid it right back in. So I punched right back in at 18, but I think the sellers are starting to get control of this. A lot of times if you're punching a top, you want it to go right away. So if it loses about, I think I'm at like 80 something in there, high 80s, let's call it. I'm gonna jump out of this and wait for it to calm down a little bit here. Whoa. Okay, so Palantir just came in, but
Yeah, it's getting a little choppy.
actually, it's okay. It's actually at 9. Let's go 911 short. NVIDIA. So I was saying this in the chat. Somebody all day long has been buying 112.60 on NVIDIA. And it's weird because my initial thought when I was bearish today was I'm just going to short this thing when it breaks it. So I just sat here with a stop order waiting for this to break down on NVIDIA, and it hasn't happened. It's actually just bouncing off this level and now breaking out. Now remember 15, I still think 115 is a sell zone on NVIDIA, so if we get there today, then I want to reject that and look for the short. But clearly somebody's buying this, and it also corresponds with VWAP there on NVIDIA. But yeah, and just Anish, so the entirety of the group, when I say SMR, NNE, it looks like Oklo is much better. Like, look at Oklo's move versus, say, Nanos is actually pretty good too, but Oklo looks right now like the strongest of bunch. It's Palantir I got to be concerned with, because Palantir did come in, filled me at 911. I was like, yeah, you got to let it get above VWAP and trade into this 110 area. This is where it curled before. I thought I was being patient enough waiting for it on the back end off of this high, but it's a little bit, it's strong going into this high. Not like it was before. Like, this is strength into this high, unlike it was before. But I'm giving it to this prior wick. Like, this lower high wick is 109.5. So I'm giving it to that top. So we'll see. Palantir might have actually just caught a bid. But when the shorts worked off this level before, I'm going to give it one more chance here. So NVIDIA, I think you just got to worry about that 112.60. We saw it all afternoon. If it gets anywhere near that price again, someone's buying it, I think you join them.
Yeah, I think, again, NVIDIA on watch for sure, because we were trying to look for that push into that 115, right? 115, a bit of a held area, 115.40s is the high. I was looking for that push coming in, but when I saw that we did a bit of a breakdown, gapping down in the morning, I definitely took it off of my screen there. But yeah, strong bid pretty much coming in off of that 111s, 110.83 is the day low. But yeah, that held bid definitely kind of showing up there. 112s and some change, 112.60s it would seem, as Neil just pointed out there, holding above and hovering above VWAP on NVIDIA. So poised for a bit of a push there going into the end of the day. What's the day high? 1380, and that was set, I don't think that's the high from currently, yeah. So 1379, and then yeah, 1380, so about a penny push into that prior high. That was that push that we got along with the rest of the market. That's where the NASDAQ came in and clipped that 20,000 mark as well. So that high getting tested as of right now here on NVIDIA. Let's see if we get some more tailwind. Maybe that pop was telling us something and we just kind of sold off on the initial reaction, but we're grinding all the way back up. So I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to stay patient and watch. Our buyers kind of stepping into this as of right now is a question at the back of my head. Palantir continues to trade higher as well. So that one is one of my, again, main ones on watch. I'm getting a little chopped up here. Neil, I did kind of try that 109 a couple times there, 1, 2, 3 times. I'm getting stopped out here on Palantir, attempting to short this 109.
I want to answer a couple of questions if I can.
110 will be.
Because one of them was about Palantir. Yes. So Flow Grade, just wondering why short Palantir at the 109. So when I was talking about Palantir earlier, the one successful short, well, the short area that worked, unless you had the open trade, was the push through VWAP. This fail here underneath, it was like 109.70. And then the short, and I literally had 109.20s, and then the final ad was basically 109 even. Oh, yap, and that was a potential ad. Anyways, that was a potential ad there in the 20s. And then this lower high where the best trade was off 109.5. So I was letting it press into that level, and then my first entry was going to be that high, giving it to the 109.5. That prior bar high is essentially 109.10. So I'm pretty sure. I actually thought I offered 10s, but I must have offered 11s. It doesn't really matter. I might have just missed a chance to get some, but add some more to it. But I do want to respect this 108.80 area, which held before. So I'm going to make sure I do that, try to get some out. I didn't get the add to the position. If this bounces off VWAP, I think it's a sign of a lot of strength because the last time it was here, it flushed through VWAP the first time and I had no trouble with it. And then the second question was, someone asked here what the candle was on the futures at 11 o'clock. It was just the Trump press conference with Carney started at that time and the market caught a bid. That's all it was. Like nothing even got said that was that big of a deal. Thank you for the super chat here. Jedi, may the 4th be with you, even though it's well past that. NVO, good price going into earnings, and they have some permits, but the problem, they need a lot of manufacturing from China. Yeah, that'll be a problem. I mean, outside of that, okay, I agree with you. Novo's been beaten up so badly, unfortunately for them, because they've just been seen as losing ground and losing ground. More and more to Eli Lilly. They got the Hims partnership, which can be good for them, but their oral has been a failure to a certain extent. And at this point, it's getting there where it's like, did they sell this off way too much? I don't know, and it's feeling like that's true, but I don't like catching falling knives. But if this closes above the 50 period moving average, it's got to look good. Has to. So Eli Lilly is one of my biggest non-tech holdings, so I'm on the Eli Lilly train. So as much I can yap all I want about this, but the idea, I'm probably not buying it myself because on dips, I'm just buying Lilly. I'll keep it real, but it does look really enticing, and I think they do have some trouble, but come on, at some point, haven't they been punished enough? Is the sense that I get for Novo Nordisk is how you're supposed to say it. That's what I've been told.
Oh boy, man! These wipes on Palantir are absolutely aggressive.
The VWAP bounce?
Yeah, the VWAP bounce comes in again, so definitely a little poised for a bit of a bounce. But again, I always like that initial reaction. I'm always like, it's selling action, right? It's a market. There's a lot of time price action is sold. So I'm like, the question that I always ask is this action trying to sell me something, or is this actual valuable information? Regardless of what it is, that initial push getting taken out definitely takes out some shorter term participants. I like that a little bit as well. Let's see if we can trade a little bit lower, or does VWAP hold as a little bit of support? I have it sitting at 108.68. We're kind of chopping around that 109 right now. Again, I like that I'm involved. Am I going to be right? I have no idea, but it did start working a little. What? It's halting?
No, it's also a trend break.
It's also a trend break. Yes. So there's definitely some confluencing factors here, but again, it's nothing's really set in stone just yet. There is no confirmation as to say just yet, or strong confirmation. We just kind of started to break the trend here, but we could hold VWAP. VWAP could be stronger. We are holding that 106 halves, which we saw a lot of volume kind of churn in the pre-market session in and around. So I do have to respect this VWAP as best as possible. We've got Chris L in the chat saying revenge of the 6th.
I like it.
Where's because today is the 6th. Because they said may the 4th be with you. Revenge of the 6th. I like that. Good stuff.
You know what? I think and I'm talking as a Star Wars fan here.
Yes.
I think, and this is, some people consider blasphemy. I think those not the original, but the 1, 2, and 3, upon reflection, they're not as bad as you think. You go back and watch, after you watch 7, 8, 9, you tell me that 1, 2, and 3 had told a bad story.
Yes.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
They were much better than you thought, weren't they? For all the haters out there, Jar Jar was a pretty terrible character, but the movies overall, Qui-Gon Jinn was amazing, one of my favorite characters of all time.
You don't like Jar Jar? He added no comedic value? That's a very serious. Okay. All right.
No.
What's your reasoning? I just want to know.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
The only cool thing is a fan theory that he was like a secret Sith, which is actually pretty funny.
I think I might have read that somewhere.
I think you probably, a lot of people, it's one of those. No, it's
Matt R with the super chat. Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
Boom. Wait a minute. My bad. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So
oh boy.
Matt, I read the wrong part first. So I'm sorry to hear that. Broke up with your girl today, but you've made.
Maybe he's happy about it. You never know.
You know
Silver
what?
lining, though.
There's always a silver lining
Yes.
somewhere. I don't know, but you made thousands trading Palantir. Listen, you guys, much love for the knowledge, jokes, and commentary from all of you today. You know what? I think I wanted to. I can't tell the full joke, but there's a really good joke about no matter what your situation is, you only got two things to worry about. You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
All you have in life is your health, right? And with that, you only got two things to worry about. Are you healthy or you're not? And if you're not healthy, you only got two things to worry about. You know, whether you're going to get worse or whether you're going to get better. And if you're going to get worse, there's only two things you got to worry about. Whether you're going to live or whether you're going to die. And if you live, you ain't got nothing to worry about. If you die, you only got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to heaven or whether you go to hell. If you go to heaven, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you got to go to hell, well, then it's regular or extra crispy. That's all you got for me. No, basically, the line, but the thing is that it always reminds me of something, and that is no matter the situation, the things out of your control aren't worth worrying about because 100%. There's nothing you can do about it. But the things in your control, you also shouldn't worry about because they're in your control. And what it means is don't worry about it. Life is too short for any of that nonsense. Matt R., I'm glad you got right back on that horse. Crush some Palantir, which hopefully doesn't crush us on this short, and always bigger and better things in the future. That's all I got to say. Shout out to you, Matt. But Palantir is catching a bit off VWAP, which I'm sure you noticed as well, Obi. And the market, while the market's trending higher,
to those buyers.
I guess HIMS was a short after all. Who was it? Somebody in the chat was like, HIMS is a short. And it is actually setting up from the high break. Man, the scaling on this chart. I have to zoom in. Sorry, guys. You got to zoom in. Look at the topping tail candle with this trend break. My goodness, sitting in Palantir, which is trying to go like 30 or 40 cents, HIMS is a $49 stock. It does the topping tail candle, runs the high, and then loses the trend. And then look at the candle. You get the same move on Palantir that you would get here on HIMS. It doesn't mean it's going to work forever, but that initial drop was actually pretty good. Those nanonuclear names are also still doing ridiculous amounts of volume. I do believe Oklo, this looks like the strongest of the bunch, at least from what I can tell. I tried my hand over an SMR, but Oklo seems to be a bit stronger. The story, of course, being the White House is trying executive actions aimed at speeding up nuclear reactor deployment. That is the story. This is losing the offer and going higher, looking for Palantir to not catch a bid.
Yeah. I mean, there it is. There's the not catching the bid as sellers step into the bid itself. So 109s continues to be a little bit of a push. But again, we're still in that VWAP area. We've been technically making higher highs and higher lows. So I do want to stay a little bit nimble. I'm counter trending the reversion of the reversion. Let's call it that. So the short-term trend, I'm definitely counter trending this because we have caught a bid off of 106s. There, so I'm trying to get back in. But bigger picture, kind of looking for that level hold of that 109s and seeing if that 109 can potentially give us some more opportunities as we pull back into those 108 halves. But again, buyers stepped into 106 halves. Do they step up? That's another question that I'm asking on the other side of it. Trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate for myself. To keep me kind of in the right mindset here. Prior bar low break on the 15-minute incoming right here on Palantir once again. So let's see if that one gives us some continuation. We got to hold below the halves and print the quarter, right? That's the thing. You guys might hear me say that often. I like to work with quarters and eighths. But yeah, can we usually on the long? I'll be like, can we hold the quarter? Can we print the half? On the way down, I'm like, can we print the half, break the half, print the quarter? That's what I'm looking for here.
It's not weird though.
No, it's not.
What's actually
algos
true,
are still kind of
a lot of algos are still weird like that, where like they'll swipe for quarters. They'll swipe for mostly eighths, not quarters, but you get that phenomenon in a stock which is like expensive. You'll get those swipes. Even something like this, like give me a break. It doesn't even want to. Doing two things at once. I was just sorry. HIMS was breaking down off the 49, and like just as we were talking about the quarters and the eighths, like right at that eighth mark, someone just immediately starts coming in and trying to buy it up there. I still see us What's your VWAP saying? Oh, no, we just bounced.
We bounced off VWAP, on P-Pro VWAP, and that was where that last wick was as well. Again, I'm a little jittery on the keys right now. I was a little heavier than intended, but not by much.
Oh, it worked again.
But yeah, I'm looking for that other spot there.
Changed to a 1 minute back to a 3.
Oh yeah.
So, well, what's interesting is at the Open, this is just, if you're watching the Open, you know this.
If you're trading on P-Pro. If
you're trading on P-Pro, my VWAP was wrong. Not on HIMS, it was actually on Palantir. HIMS, I have my stop in, but I might tighten this stop up. The buyers came right in there. Yeah, you know what?
I don't think it's wrong. It's just adjusted differently. Right? It's just using different data.
I don't like that. I'm flattening this trade. The buyers are holding the even dollar now. No, so basically what happened, and this is it matters, but at the Open on Palantir, now it's corrected now, but you could probably go back. And when I was trading in the morning, Palantir, like it just didn't crack the volume weighted average price, and I was looking for that topping tail, but it was a very classic fail of VWAP, and then when it broke that prior, like this opening bar, that was underneath the volume weighted average price, and so I didn't punch it. I was actually trying to get higher and not willing to take it on the way down, but I've corrected that, and now that it bounced off VWAP, I'm also out. I'm out of HIMS. I think you got to scalp trade these. I mean, ultimately, if it does follow through, I'd like to try to pick it up again because the second time was better than the first last time. So the first time was a scalp trade, and the second time was the bigger one to the downside for sure. Mike DeRider, I just got to throw this out there. We'd be looking at this one. It's actually not in our database. So NTCL is one that we can't call up today for whatever reason. I'll check into that. Sometimes it happens if it's a new issue, or sometimes there's like a new SPAC or something, which I don't know that that's what it is. And then we might not be able to pull it up for a day. It's not a huge
NTCL might stand for not cleared for us to access. But I don't know.
That's actually not a bad. I like that one. That's a good one.
Okay.
Your pun game is always pretty strong.
I don't know. I'm just trying to put in the right kind of reps here. But here's something I haven't done today. Ask you guys what you guys are trading. Maybe I did that earlier in the morning. But as we watch this Palantir, I want to know what you guys are trading. Throw it up in the chat because I'm looking for that next trade. Palantir, sure. I might have missed the short. There it goes, breaking some fresh lows there. 108.36 was that prior low there. So we're grinding a little bit lower, and the price action is definitely a little distinctly different than we had on the bid all the way up into 109s because this is, again, a little bit of VWAP chop happening as of right now. Let's see if we can kind of confirm a bit of a trend break back down to the downside. Futures as well. Prior 15-minute candle was a little bit red here on the futures, but we got 12 minutes left for this 15-minute candle, the current one, to print. So we're going to stay patient to see if that's a breakout or a pullback in. No idea. Maybe setting up for a 3-bar. No idea. I'm not going to make those assumptions. But yeah, let's see what you guys are throwing up in the chat. I'm seeing the tickers come in. Let's see. Let's start checking them out here. Okay, Reddit. We got Reddit, Baba, SMCI, Hood, CELH. That was one I was watching in the pre-market as well. Today is, I think, earnings day one, and it gapped down, so I've got to check that one. But at last I remember, it was bidding up quite nicely and reverted a decent chunk of that move. Okay, we got trading HIMS short now, saying T.I. Bryant. Okay, cool. We'll take a look at that one as well. FTAI saying Nick. As well. So, all right, so let's start going. Oh, okay, and I see Adair in the chat as well. Lily. Okay, yeah, no, Lily was definitely a good one right there. Lily, exactly. That's how that's looking like. Beautiful trend. Beautiful trend down right there. We can do that again. Look at that indicator right there. Boom.
It's almost perfect.
Not only does it break and hold the push down of the opening range, below VWAP, we gradually extend off of VWAP, definitely showing us who is in charge today, and those are sellers on Eli Lilly. So kind of taking a higher time frame look at this, looking at that prior low break, that earnings reaction low, earnings day one low, Neil, that was sitting at 792.06. Today's consolidation low in the morning session, if you want to call it a consolidation, it's definitely a little bit of a consolidation right here. Sideways consolidation for from 10:15 to about 11:30, so just over an hour and 15 minutes. You can see that 94 breakdown right there as well. So a little bit of a confluence of weakness coming into that day one low as well. Nice follow through coming into the 75s right here. So can we break this first quarter, and print the halves That's the question I'm asking. 750s, I don't know if we're going to get there today, Neil, but Lily, absolutely beautiful trend. I have had eyes on this one because I'm waiting for that trend break to come in, but guess what? No sign of buyers at all. Another one you guys mentioned was CELH. This one distinctly different and a little bit opposite when compared to Lily. You can see that it did catch a bid, maybe not really off of the open. Of the open, yes, flushed it, but then caught a bid right there at that 32 halves, grinding back up to the upside currently. Held VWAP pretty well, but I don't think that really mattered too much. It seems like some of these intraday structures were a little bit more important to go off of as it stair-stepped all the way back up for reversion, 100% reversion back into the day highs right there on CELH, looking like a little bit of a slowdown as well. Look at that high volume candle that pushed and gave us some of those high prints there as well on CELH. And one more, Chris L saying UNH. I know that one's been on my watch as well. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right, we're going to talk about this one right after we get back from Neil.
Oh my God, that was the response for anybody that was watching the Leafs pull it through without their starting goalie. And you know what? If you want to take shots at something like that and you want top tier odds and total control, Profit X brings you peer-to-peer picking, open API access for automation, and cost-efficient trading, all in one place. It's like day trading your favorite sports. Make offers, match plays, and even manage your risk with diverse prediction options. Don't just place your picks, exchange them, trade them, get in the book, bid, ask, find the best lines out there for you. The smarter and faster way to play is ProfitX. You can use the code TraderTV and get the sign-up offer of 2% cash back for up to 300 bones, and do something that I know my man Julie Options would want to do, which is get on them Maple Leafs on the money line. Although hopefully Stolarz is okay. We'll see how the backup's going to do because I think he's going to be playing. Apparently, you can concuss the other team's goalie and not get suspended in the NHL because they're tough like that. It's a bit weird. I mean, in the NBA, if you breathe on somebody, like it's a foul, but you could forearm shiver a guy and send him to the hospital. And no, but seriously, like our goalie was carried out in a stretcher.
That's why.
He went to the hospital. And
nobody got no repercussions.
There wasn't a penalty on the play.
Who owns this ref?
No, I'm not bitter or anything. And in an absolute defense, I can be objective. It didn't look that bad in real time.
Yep.
But in the NHL, they do consider in the aftermath like how injured the player is when assessing a penalty. So you can't just say, well, it didn't look that bad in real time. The dude got taken out of the game with a concussion. That should trigger some kind of response. It's the kind of response that short sellers are probably getting concussed with right now in SMCI. Because thank goodness we had a stop order. Who doesn't trade with stop orders out here? And yes, okay, Blue Brown.
Sometimes.
I know you don't. But like just saying, sometimes a stop order is going to save your butt. SMCI is absolutely flying. And I do get it. Our goalie did take a big time hit. He took a puck to the face on a shot that clearly concussed him, or I think it concussed him earlier in the game. But let's not pretend that the forearm had nothing to do with it. That's all I'm saying. Like he's tough. I don't know why. He clearly had something happen to him earlier in the game, and the spotter didn't see it, and they let him continue to play, and then it was the second hit that got him knocked out. But you're getting a big bounce here. The chip names are going, and it's SMCI that's moving the most for sure here. Just want to zoom it out. Lots of room to get to 34. I don't know why I didn't like the reverse on that short.
Yeah, you're right.
We always talk about this. Trend in, trend out. And then the trend, it's like a trend break off of oh, that's horrible. I'm not even drawing that right. Okay, that trend line should be like this, like, ugh, whatever.
You're right. What's happening there?
Here, that's close enough. It doesn't matter. It was a breakout off VWAP that we didn't get. So I don't know if I want to be buying this dip. I'm still eyeballing HIMS for a better entry point for the short. And I'm wondering if I should be taking SMCI because HIMS is now double topping. So the gut sort of said the buying wasn't right that I saw off HIMS. And if you go to the morning range top, essentially they bought in front of that. And then it's a retest of the high. So I don't wonder if it needs to take out this 48 half zone or just give some kind of a false break of 50. So false break 50 or lose the 48 half, and that'll be a better shorting opportunity. I feel like we got away with one there, that the tape told you that it wasn't right and you can just punch out. But yeah, if I get back into it, it's a false break of 50 short, or it's breaking through 48 and a half. I think that makes a little bit more sense. Dexter Smith, Neil, you were right about NVIDIA. Yeah, but look at all the executions. Well, in the sense I was wrong about NVIDIA because I took this buyer and was bearish overall this afternoon. Thankfully, it hasn't hurt because Palantir were able to get out good and HIMS were able to get out good. But I took this buyer to mean let's break that down short when they lose the buyer. But sometimes the buyer just means buy in front of them. And that's the other way to go. And all of a sudden you are running into 115. It looks like it's got room, but 115 is a big wall on this stock. You just got to be careful with that. We've seen it before, and every time we've gotten up there, there's been sellers. Yesterday, it couldn't quite get there. Obviously, on Friday, it did get there and faded back in. I think that's one. Okay, sometimes when I read something from the chat, I pull it in front so you guys can see it. Palantir just came back to 1910. Right, so we're back in that one again. Just so you guys can see, I'm not making this up. Dip sniffer. Let's talk about Upstart. No, it's important. I don't want you guys to think I'm making these names up in the chat, but sometimes people have colorful names. First things first. I jump back into the same trade. I don't know if I want to give it the same stop. I've literally taken the same area here. It looks like it's gonna. And the thing about it is when it's SSR, I've found you have to get something in on the front end and can't always wait for like that on the way back down. Like sometimes you'll get the fill on the confirmation candle. Other times it's like good luck getting the short when it's doing that. But we'll see. I'm going to give it to the same stop. I don't know if I still have it in there. I do have it in there. Okay, good. I still have the same stop in there from before. If it breaks out that 109.5, then I'm jumping out for sure. Yes, we can talk about Upstart. I just wanted to make sure my stop order was in there. Following the market right now. What's our reason for liking it? Oh, okay, I see what you're getting at. Close above the 50-period moving average. That's good. Holding a $50 even.
Check.
That's also a check. Big seller at the 200-period moving average. Is there like I don't have an and that's sort of the problem. That would be the problem. Look at yes, you're consolidating in the right spot, but somebody's selling 53, and that's a 200-period moving average. So room 253, and goodness, look at this 15. Same thing going on in the 15-minute, and it's at 51. So you might actually have a breakaway trade from the 51 if it can get through 51.5 and then play that into 53. But it needs to get through 51.5. Like when I see sellers, it's like the market is showing you sellers there. I never want to be the dude going long right there when you're running into the supply zone. Supply zone needs to get broken or it needs to get faded. And if you don't like the fade, I'd wait for it to break. Let's go to Adair.
Keep an eye on ILMN and GRAL endpoints, which is a bio-focused news website. They're reporting here that the SEC is expected to drop its investigation of Illumina's $8 billion deal for Grail. Usually in this situation, we'll have the acquirer jump and the company that was going to be acquired drop. But in this case, they're actually both kind of pushing higher. That is ILMN. Here's GRAL. Again, these companies on watch here after endpoints, which is a biopharma-related news source reporting that the SEC is expected to drop its investigation of Illumina's attempt to acquire Grail. Again, expected. This is in no way confirmed or a done deal. Back to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adair.
See that you're looking at, you're doing some planning?
Well, I was just looking at it, and I get it. Upstart right there. Among the names that will be on the aftermarket show, this time when I say it, it's confirmed. It's actually Sharif who's going to be filling in, and I want to thank him for doing that. My wife is away, and he's on the trip, and so I was like, yeah, if you could, that'd be great, because usually I would fill in for Sean. So it's going to be Sharif and Adair kicking butt today. But aftermarket, Tempest, Rivian, Clover, ALAB, AMD at 415, Arista, Upstart, Lucid, EA Sports, it's in the game. And SMCI, which, you know, in typical SMCI fashion, after the close. I don't know what time they're supposed to be, but SMCI has a decent chance to lose the most.
They later confirmed it was 420.
Oh, so apparently it is 4. Thank you very much, Adair. Appreciate it. So it is confirmed now that it is 420. Although with SMCI, I'm like a see it or believe. I'll believe it when I see it for SMCI for a lot of things. So shout out to them. But yeah, Upstart can be reporting aftermarket. SMCI. I
think we need borrows,
just
right?
saying SMCI delay maybe again.
Hour.
Oh boy. Nice.
It does sound a bit like
Our, like what? Like Fabian?
Yeah, you don't think that sounds a little like
Maybe.
Fabian?
Fabian, did you record your own voice there? Nice.
No, well,
Yeah. So SMCI, I think we need borrows for SMCI.
we do. They're
right?
not free. They're
Because I'm
cheap,
like,
but
this is looking a little enticing for a bit of a reversion, but the thing is, we just got into Power Hour, and this is the first little pullback, and it's trending much higher, and it's earnings eve. So do I really want to step in the way of that one? Probably not. There's probably other reversions. Yeah, like, I mean, in terms of reps, I should be taking all the reversions.
No,
I
I'm
can
being
get, but-
facetious. I'm totally being facetious.
No, but I think it's not bad. Like, here is about a 20 penny a risk if I'm getting in short here, just to the high. But do I really want to get involved right now when NVIDIA is breaking out, ARM is breaking out, well, maybe not Micron. Micron's not really that strong of a push, but again, components of SMH, right? So SMH, current day high on SMH is 217.43. So we're kind of slowly grinding back up into there, but NVIDIA is the main one I'm watching, and NVIDIA already broke its day high and continued to grind a little bit higher into 114s, and we talked about that 115 being a little bit of a level of interest. So yeah, definitely don't want to step in the way of that one. But yeah, no, I think the great thing about what I'm starting to realize is like when you kind of track your trades and build a playbook, and I'm like, I've been kind of working on that a little bit. You know,
Just very quickly, I'm flatting Palantir. Forget that stop at
Palantir is a little, yeah, that chop sideways on VWAP is wild.
Like when I see this, it's like, yeah, the buyers came in at 80 again, like the first level, and then they just broke out the 109.5 punch out break even. There's no need to fight that one. I feel like I feel about HIMS. So I'm just getting out of Palantir. It ends up just being a scalp trade after all. So it's not looking that great.
No, I even mentioned it just a little earlier. I'm like, I feel like they're selling us the short, and there's one thing I don't like. I don't like being sold to. So if I feel like that price action is a little fugazi, I'm not gonna buy into that. Idea.
Actually, my third favorite scene in Boiler Room. I had to think about it for a second. My third favorite scene in Boiler Room is when he gets sold to. Have you seen the movie?
I have not seen Boiler Room. I don't think so.
Well, anyone that's seen Boiler Room, you should really watch that movie.
Okay.
The scene where Giovanni Ribisi is like sitting at home eating his cereal, and he's got the paper, and he gets and a guy calls him trying to sell him the Times. Yeah. And so like at first he's like, yeah, whatever, not interested. And then the guy gives up, and he's like, what? That's your sales call? And then he basically starts schooling, like, give me a real pitch. It's like, it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. My favorite scene in the movie is the first, like Vin Diesel when he's on and he sells the stock to the doctor, and then the other one is I
think I might have seen. I've seen that
Ben
clip.
Affleck in the boardroom.
I've seen the clip. I've seen the Vin Diesel clip.
You gotta trust me like that.
That was funny. Where he's trying to sell the 2,000 shares, right? That's what it was. I recently saw that one. Yeah, I was like, LOL. We are in a very different business here.
But the best part of
we don't do that around.
He's like, I'm sorry, but I can't do any. Our firm limit is I can't do any more than 1,000. He's like, what, 1,000 shares?
Yeah. He's like, and then he asks why.
Out of curiosity, why can't you sell me more?
Right there, you know you have them.
Got him.
Right there, you know you have them.
We don't do that stuff. It's
absolutely not.
Absolutely.
But you can see that stuff happening live in the markets on the tape if you know where to look.
Someone's always trying to sell you something.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
And it's a market. There's going to be marketing that's happening. Think about it.
Big Short's also very good. Reco.
Big Short is absolutely beautiful. I love that
Palantir
movie.
might be. When is this long? I said I wouldn't go long until 110 on Palantir because that's the opening range high. If they're not buying above the open, sorry, that's not the opening range high because it fell from 113. But the first pullback in Palantir held 110. So I've been thinking all morning long that I need it to break the 110 level, and I feel like I should be sticking to that. Don't want to break that rule. Yeah, I can't get myself.
It's very.
It probably is. I mean, it's trying to break out. My goodness, even HIMS dodged a bullet on HIMS. Like the tape was telling you the short wasn't right, even though it was a mean reversion. And look at it, it's at 250 now. So the best you can do if you're bearish in a market like this is get out when the getting is good. When you're looking for mean reversion trades, just don't lose on the shorts. And then just try to see if you can find something which sets up a little more traditionally for the long. Just going to check back on Oklo for everybody here. This is still trending higher. Oklo's still looking pretty good. My goodness, what a market.
So
man.
here's
Back to
the thing about Palantir, Neil. We talked about VWAP being interesting. We talked about some of those 109 halves being interesting, that 110 as well from the morning session. But guess what we have not touched yet on a retest? The anchored VWAP of earnings. That's sitting at 110.30s. So this is the actual anchored off of the report, and we can see again. We talk about when I like to use indicators. I like to use indicators when they're showing me that they're working, right? I don't want to anticipate a potential VWAP hold, but look, when you anchor it to the earnings report, you can see that it held as resistance on that initial bounce that we got. It held as resistance on the second bounce that we got. And then has it been holding as resistance? Sure. One could argue that this little push up into this area held as resistance. Off the open, we get a flush where they step down to intraday VWAP as well. Intraday VWAP holds, but now we're seeing a little bit of a difference. But yeah, that's the next level I'll be watching here, 110.30s. I was like, okay, well, if you're going to sell a little bit of this price action for potential short, build enough buying pressure to push it up into 1030s, 1030s could be a better place. That's also happening to coincide, again, confluence with that first 3-minute opening range low as well. That low on that first 3-minute candle is sitting at 110.35. Current anchored VWAP sitting at 110.30. So not that far away, only about a point away. Can I be patient for the next 50 minutes or so to see if that level comes in? Of course, I think I'm going to wait. If the right kind of price action happens in and around that anchored, it's a little bit of a better trade in my books. Now, it could also come in anywhere, right? It doesn't really matter. It could not come in at all. I have no idea. We could still be reverting and 106 or 105.32 stays the low day and we continue to push and we take out that day high as well. What do I know? We've seen tickers in recent times do full-on V-shaped recoveries going into the close, or volatility comes in the last 15, 20 minutes. We saw what happened last week as well. I think it was Thursday on the whole market, a nice little flush, and then a couple days before that, nice little pop, nice run up into the close as well. So volatility in the last hour definitely coming in. Yeah, HIM's on it's on squeeze mode.
Big time.
HIM's is definitely on squeeze mode right now. A slow grinding bid. Like, what does a squeeze look like on a higher time frame? That's the question you got to ask.
This is what a squeeze looks like on a higher time frame. And we always say this about support and resistance. Sometimes your best course of action is to let the market tell you when someone is accumulating shares or where there's a support or resistance level. Like sometimes it is just the obvious level. And I'm not a HIMS, as I've said before, I only like Lilly shares, and for some reason I've never wanted to dabble in anything else. I've never owned Novo. I've never dabbled in HIMS. I understand that it's also big for like the hair loss thing, what I've been told. But if you look at that hold in consolidation, and then what happens? Unfortunately, the breakaway day of that level is the massive candle. So it's not that realistic that you get a great price on a swing for something like that. But the great consolidation and the breakout was pretty clean on that daily chart for HIMS. I saw people talking about Rigetti.
Ooh, that's a quantum name.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be moving to. I mean, it is.
It's been moving for the past few days, yeah.
I guess, but I understand. We were just talking about the nuclear names. Like those are the ones that are moving the most. So this is kind of catching a bit of a bid, and look at where it bounces.
Look at where it finds a bid, yeah.
920.
More of the same.
Supply zone, and then you get a ramp. This is where you look for the continuation on a day two. Like the fact that it holds here, you probably want to break through that $9.80 level, which was resistance yesterday, but that looks pretty constructive. I just don't know if it's like, is that the space you want to be in with no catalyst when everyone and their mother's probably looking at SMCI, HIMS, and the nuclear names right now? And then anything reporting tonight, like where's the juice in Rigetti? I'm not sure where the juice is going to end up there. Safe in the chat. Well, there's one for you here. Pug Life has a question for you, Obi.
Yes.
I don't know if you want.
I was just reading that.
But this one here. Any tips to control emotions better? I want to get to this one first.
We can do that.
Any tips to control emotions better when trying to stay objective? The first thing I would say is everyone has to be themselves. If you're an emotional type person, you don't reduce it to zero. If you're an unemotional person, like for me, it is very natural for me to not get emotional in making decisions. When I used to play poker, no trouble with that. When I played sports, no trouble with that. So I'm in the other side of the bucket. where it's not a big challenge for me. As long as I have a plan of action, which I know is binary, then it doesn't matter what's at stake. I'm good with it. But it does come down to, but regardless of whatever type you are, it does come down to having some type of a plan of action and especially execution that you can be following. Because if you have a true plan, one that you could explain easily, this is what I'm looking for to get in, this is what happens when I am wrong, this is how I'm executing out, this is where my stop is going to be. If you can have those types of plans, then it can take the emotion side out of it. Now, you still have to put that stop order in. You still have to know that I'm not planning on DCA, dollar cost averaging. Don't put that order entry in. But at least at that point, you'll have a rule that you're supposed to be following. And after the fact, you can say, well, I broke this rule or I didn't break this rule. If you don't have them in the first place, then emotional trading is going to get the best of you because you have no you have no controls for it. You're just sort of getting in at will. You don't have an out. You don't have an idea of what the trade is going to be. You're punching in without a stop. Like I'll give you the example of SMR. I chased on SMR today. Right? So I chased the breakout. Now, this is idiotic, taking that break and not scalping anything out. I got out just underneath 18, or actually at 18 somehow, I'm not sure why. And then I got back in when it broke 18 all in the same time. But I had a stop idea. You know, I had a stop. I'm like, yeah, I'll give it to 17.9. And I said that live. I'll give it just underneath 17.9 and give it a chance to go. It didn't, and now it trended down. So that entire time, that was my rule. Follow it, and that's it. I'm out of the trade. And I never had to worry about it. Just set the stop. If it goes like, and what's annoying about it is Oklo, you know, you backed the wrong horse. In the same moment, the same breakout trade with a similar set of rules would have worked on Oklo. But I picked the wrong one. And you take a hit, but it won't be a big hit, and it won't be past what I was trying to risk because I knew the second I punch in where that stop order is going to go, and I can tell you where it is. And that's you'll pretty much never see me take a trade that I can't tell you where I'm getting out. Before we get into the trade. That's an important thing.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there. Thank you, Neil, for dropping that wisdom once again. Yeah, emotional control is very, very huge. It definitely, if you can have emotional control, that is an edge within itself for sure. And having a plan, just like Neil said, definitely dispels a lot of that emotional fluctuation because a lot of the emotion, I find for myself, I can speak for myself, comes in when something happens that I'm not expecting. And I'm like, oh, I should have had that, or I should have done this, or whatever. That literally goes back to what Neil just talked about, not having a plan. If you kind of have a plan for being like, all right, this is what I'm looking for, this is how I'm going to trade it, and then these are all the iterations of if things go wrong and what I'm going to do if things go wrong. If you have all that set out and planned, sure, it's not going to be effective right away, but the more you put in the reps of doing that, the better your emotional control can get over time. I think you have to be putting in like meaningful reps. If you wear your emotions on your sleeves, well then good luck. It has nothing to do with your trading. That's something you have to work on in your personal and then let that bleed into your trading actions as well. So that's very, very important. But yeah, emotional control is definitely an important part of trading. And I think there was another comment there as well. I got to scroll back up. I think Pug Life was saying PLTR has a major call wall where market makers sold call options. So until that's exhausted, 110 will continue to be a resistance along with 105-ish area for support, since that is a put wall. Yeah, sure, definitely. Whenever there's options interest, there can be support and resistance that is formed. But at the end of the day, if you build enough buying pressure, you can get through walls, right? That same kind of wall supply and demand action happens within the book as well. So it's like, all right, yeah, you can observe that that's there. Now you have to ask yourself, have we built enough buying pressure to take that out, given the current circumstances? Sometimes you can see it coming. Sometimes it comes in randomly. So I have no idea, but yeah, definitely those are good things to watch out for, knowing that, okay, if we can get past this, then it increases or changes probabilities for things to happen. So what else we got here? Love listening to you.
Trying again to break the trend. So
IONQ has earnings tomorrow. Someone mentioning that in the chat. IONQ?
IONQ, yeah. IONQs, I'm pretty sure that, like 99.9% sure. I don't remember if it's before or after the bell, but you know where you can find that out? The only resource you need which is our Trader TV research on X. If you want any information, or if you just want a fun infographic, check that out. It's a fantastic follow. Derek does an absolute smashing job. Unbelievable job. Smashing like I'm British or something. It's just an unbelievable job with that. So here's hims and hers. There is a break of this trend from there, and this is me not getting filled. Oh, I got 97s. All right, so we're going to get filled here. The prior bar high actually wouldn't break the trend, so I might move it to 50-40 here, and then look for a place that makes a little more sense to add to it. So I'm talking about like the trend that it reestablished. This is not a very good trend line, but you guys get the idea. It bothers me sometimes when I draw a bad one, but you get the idea. It broke this short upward trend, and it also broke the 50 and failed back underneath it, at least temporarily. So I'll give it to the prior bar high, and if we can break down the prior high, look for some kind of an ad here in the 49.60 range. I see what you're putting up there. I don't know why.
Do you remember this guy?
I do.
Yeah. I was just like, that's what.
Never said that before.
Fabian reminded me of that. I forget the name of the show, but that's Nigel right there. Hey, no, I don't know. It's not Hey Arnold. It's like the Safari. It's the Safari family, right? It's like they go on like safaris and stuff. Yeah, they talk with animals and stuff. I'm forgetting the name of the show, but yeah, that's why I was just like.
It's bothering me.
Smashing, yeah. And smashing these sellers to the upside is Palantir right now in 109.50. So we're kind of grinding back up into that 110 level, like you guys pointed out. Again, 110 coming in. Again, we talked about confluence. So 110 sell wall on options, 110 anchored VWAP, 110 level from the pre-market as well. So it's like, all right, so a lot of confluence happening there. Definitely a level of interest, only about 50 pennies away as we grind back up nice and slowly. Wild Thornberries, thank you, Fabian, for that. Wild? A wild. Okay, so Thornberries. Go down. Wild Thornberries, there you go. People in the chat chiming in as well. Rugrats and the Thornberries, okay, yeah. I remember watching Rugrats, and I don't know if you guys watched Recess. Recess was solid.
You know what I love about Rugrats?
What?
One of my favorite R&B group did like one of the main songs for the
Really?
Rugrats movie. You believe you would know these. Blackstreet did a song for the Rugrats movie, which is definitely not on brand for them. Because if you've ever, anyways, I'm going to date myself here, but if Blackstreet's biggest hit was No Diggity, and No Diggity is not about what you think it's about. Really? I'm just going to leave. It's not. It really
I got to look into that.
No, it's not common knowledge what the theme of the song is. It's not, like a lot of R&B is wholesome in a way, and unwholesome in another way. But No Diggity is not about what you think it's about. And then they did a Rugrats movie song, which was okay. It was not on brand for them, but I always liked. After that, I was like, yeah, I can get into the Rugrats. I can't get my daughter into it. She's like, yeah, this is terrible.
Yeah, no, I try to watch some of the old cartoons, and I cannot, I thought this looked and sounded much better when I was watching it as a kid, but not anymore. There's a few of them that I have recently partially rewatched, and they were pretty good. I know I mentioned this one often here. I feel like Samurai Jack. I recently went back and I think it's good to just have in the background, if you're like working. It's a very lighthearted show. And the beautiful thing that they did, because they played on Cartoon Network, and you can't have like gore and like blood or whatever on screen because that wasn't necessarily allowed. But this is how they got around the problem. All of the villains were robots, and oil splashes and arms falling off, all of that was permissible now because the enemy's a robot. So I was like, they did a really good job of the workaround.
In G.I. Joe, it was just that the parachutes never failed for Cobra. It always bothered me. You mean not a single, every single time, and you go back and watch it, every single time the Cobra dude gets shot out of the air, like the parachute just works perfectly, and you never fail to see that not a single life was lost, which is just how they used to do things back then. It's just, again, it's feeling like, I know I said I would take the reversion on this trade, but it's very similar. Like, it did the first move, which I did not get the scalp on the first time.
It got to 50.
And then it did get to 50. It showed you the topping tail, showing you the break of trend, and there's definitely a battle happening. Like, the last time this happened, like, it caught the bid and it just went. This time it's catching a bit and it's struggling to go. That's the only thing I would say good about this right now on him. But I said if it got to 50, I'm taking the reversion trade on it. And right now it's not doing much. Oddly enough, the Palantir at the 109.5 is a very similar story. Like it's almost as if these two are joined at the hip, where you're rejecting it, you're just not going very far. Like the last time goes clean into VWAP, and then this time goes higher low, and again higher low. So I don't wonder if Hims and Palantir, it's like they want to lose the bid together or not at all. Because the best money was made VWAP long. But yeah, like if it breaks that high at 50.40, I'm just gonna jump out of that one. You know, don't want to be fighting this one too hard. Like I'm looking over, it's like, well, you could also just be short Tesla, Neil. Like Tesla goes into resistance, and it's giving you the flush that I want to see happen somewhere else. So, you know, we'll see. Like I don't want to ruin the day. Like it's been a good day. Like outside of SMR, like pretty much everything has been good, and it was originally longs on Hims. So if it doesn't want to go and the market's pulling back, this is the reversion I wanted. We'll just have to jump out of it. Unfortunately, here for HINS.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything else in terms of the next trade for myself, and I'm just going to be a little bit patient here. So what I'm going to do right now is go through what the top volume leaders did on the day. Now, right off the bat, there was a name that I did have on the watch list, GPUs, hyperscale data. If you guys were paying attention to small cap runners yesterday, you saw that GPU got a little overheated and is coming back down a little bit back below that $5 level. I was looking for that continuation on this one, but that $9 level, that 907 high, didn't really come in off of the open, so I took it off of my charts there. But I'm just seeing that again. It's still doing some solid volume on the day here. Are these volume leaders? Yes, they are. Volume gainers. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of these. Is this Lucid? Yes, this is Lucid. Okay, Lucid, nothing too crazy. Definitely not a move.
On the volume leaders?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, why are these on the volume list when this doesn't make sense? I might just refresh the page here. That's what I'm going to do right here. So refresh the page. Maybe that'll give us a better list. I feel like that's a little outdated.
110 million.
Here we go. That's more like it. I'm like, wait, I've been trading Palantir all day. How is Lucid? Okay, I had to refresh the page, Neil. Sorry about that, guys. So Palantir coming in as one of the top volume leaders today. It's done 178, almost 179 million shares on the day. Talk about trading in play tickers. Palantir, should have foreseen, was the one. All right, so Palantir doing pretty decently right now. Sideways consolidation from that morning session, so we'll see how that closing bell treats us there with only about 38 minutes left in the trading day. Hims, again, we've been talking about the top names pretty much all day here. Hims, Neil, it looks like that strong selling potentially coming in now. So that continuation could happen. NVIDIA as well. We know one of the leaders coming back up into 114, but guess what? 115 is a little bit of a higher time frame resistance that we might have to get past in order to see some higher levels. So Lucid, there it is. Lucid coming in at number 4. That makes a lot more sense. 108 million shares, 108.7 million shares as of right now.
With a 12-cent range?
With a 12 penny range. That's a lot of volume to be done. Oh boy, look at this beautiful reversion here on Ford, all the way back down into VWAP. But VWAP has been holding since about 1 o'clock here on Ford, holding against that opening range high as well. You can see that high coming in at that was at 1040s, and Neil was talking about prior day high coming in at that 1020s as well. So Ford giving us some decent opportunities as well. Tesla's a sideways chop, but again, gotta understand where it is on a higher time frame. Maybe in a piece of area called No Man's Land. Palantir
is starting to drop. Like finally, it starts to drop. It's not like it's getting like the nice hill heavy tape. I want to see if I can. I don't think we'll be able to add above 50, but if the next bar closes, it's only 324. If the next bar closes underneath 50, then I want to see if there's an add because there's so much room. Forget about VWAP, 48.6, and then 47 would be like brick walls, I'd suspect. But now that it looks like it's on the back end of the trade, I'm going to look for a lower high that we can play on this bad boy. It just looks like this might be it. As long as it holds under that 50-40, which it is, I want to look for a lower high. It needs to put in a distinct lower high, and then we can add into that trade for sure. Medical, you know what?
Marinara?
Was it Marinara?
Yeah, it's Marinara.
Medical Marinara.
That's why I love that name. I'm like,
Great name. Because first I'm like, oh, I shouldn't read that. Doesn't matter. AMD beats earnings on consumer side for sure. AI will be the big mover, though. I don't disagree with you. And what's crazy about AMD, if they just meet expectations tonight, then you're talking about a low 20s PE, because a forward PE was 24 on this, I believe, before. So if they meet expectations, they're actually not looking that bad. You have an outside chance to break away from the 50-period moving average, but you bet not miss. Better not miss. That's all I got to say, AMD, because the trend has been unabated, and every single test of the 50-period has been met with abject failure, including, and the biggest one was the October earnings. It was just wild rejection of the 50-period. So yeah, it's a big test here for AMD. It is getting to the point where it's like either this quarter or next quarter, it just gets cheap enough that it doesn't even matter. It's just going to turn into like too much of a value play, that any kind of tick up is going to be met with huge buying on AMD. Maybe they start that there tonight. You know, meet expectations, don't guide poorly, and that'd be a good look for AMD. I'd be surprised if it couldn't go up on that. Let's go to Adara.
Here is our TTV Research implied moves infographic for earnings tonight. SMCI, you might notice, is not on here. They're supposed to report tonight as far as I'm seeing, but I could not find an expected move for them, so I've not included them. But by far the largest expected move here, probably not super shocking, is Upstart. Upstart here with a 20% expected move. Rivian, 10%. Astera Labs and Lucid both around that 13-14% level. The smallest expected move today is EA with 6.5%. So it's safe to say we're expecting some big moves tonight. Make sure you check that out with Sharif and myself after the bell, 4 p.m. Eastern. Brian Shannon will also be there, so join us. Back to you.
Let's look at those movers. There will be movers aplenty, I promise you that.
Yes.
No questions asked. And shout out to Sharif. Thank you for filling in tonight. I know he'll have some fun. Brian Shannon's always the best guest out there, especially in earnings season. He's a great guest anyways, but especially in earnings season when you can go over a lot of those anchored VWAPs, the key anchors, like when you don't want to just anchor it to anywhere, but ultimately a wealth of knowledge when it comes to technical analysis in a general sense. Fantastic guest.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Shannon. I think anchored VWAP has changed my play style when it comes to trading. It's definitely changed a little bit of my understanding for sure. And it's given me some of the strongest confluence that I can get in higher time frame and intraday moves there. And Fabian coming in with a nice pun there saying, yeah, he anchored some of my trading there. So solid stuff there. Thank you, Brian Shannon, for that. Yeah, great contributor to the trading community for sure. And something that I'm watching right now, again, I was going through some of those volume leaders, Pony, and big up to Word here as well. That's also pushing WeRide all the way, riding to the upside there on that Uber news. So both Pony and Ride maybe potentially setting up for continuation going into the rest of the week here. Pony's definitely on watch for me. I was talking to Neil about this one. This one's setting up like some prior runners, which is very interesting to me. It's catalyst driven as well. As was pointed out a little earlier, a nice little break of trend, beautiful continuation, strong volume as well. But guess what? This thing, it does go on runs, but when that backside comes in, oh boy, is it beautiful. And I'll be waiting for that one there. No real reason as of right now to kind of get on the backside of this move. Look at this grinding bid, Neil. So absolutely wild. I'm curious to know what, I'm going to check right away, what specifically the short float here on Pony is and see if we can take anything off of that. Wow, 1.86% short float. That data is definitely like 3 or 4 weeks old. Just by looking at this at this chart, and then let's see what the float is.
That's small.
Float's 205 million. Yeah, it's definitely above 1%, I would say, just based off of what we're looking at here on the chart. But again, you got to remember that some of this short float data is always 2 or 3 weeks behind.
All of it's behind. It's a matter of how far it is behind, right?
And I've always learned that, the short float, you want to keep that into consideration, but also keep in mind the recent price action. And then over time, you can build on nuances of thinking about, is the current number actually higher than reported 3 or 4 weeks ago, or lower than reported? And I think that can give you a little bit. For sure, it's higher.
The hedgies are trying to have their fun with that one.
Yeah. And again, they can continue to sell.
Maybe they're not having any fun right now. But I can tell you, just one thing, at 330 is about to hit. We'll get a look at the early look of imbalances, but NVIDIA is still churning. So market off, market down, 112.5, 112.60 has got buyers on NVIDIA. And maybe this is what it takes. And it's not just, I wish I had I always say zoom out, and I didn't do it myself when looking at this. I wanted a breakdown of that this afternoon. Hey, really? Again, HIMS? You're going to... Right. I'm flatting HIMS again. HIMS was about to follow through. I have to go back to this. HIMS was about to follow through. It was breaking down. I'm like, yeah, baby, this is a breakdown here, and then we're going to add, and then it's going to play back into 48, and then right back and breaking above the 50 level. So it's exactly like, it's almost like the other time. Like you get the move, and there's no continuation. So we're kind of getting away with that one. Just doesn't want to follow through. Let me finish the thought on NVIDIA. NVIDIA, zoom out, it's holding the 50-period moving average after that nice reversal here today. So this hold here, that becomes the area to look for the longs tomorrow, assuming we don't just flat out break and gap above 115. Above 115, it's all systems go. I don't have to write that down. I know what we're trying to do above 115, and it's a breakout on NVIDIA above the 115 level. Is it going to matter what happens with AMD? Tetra. That's French. I know a little French. I know that and like not much else. My daughter knows more French than me, but that's like a little bit in French. And I probably even said it wrong, but who cares? Because I got an A in grade 9 French anyways.
Nice. I did not get an A in grade 9, grade 10 French. I
didn't deserve the A. But.
I was the funny thing because I lived in the States for a little bit there. So I went to school in the States as well, and then came back to Canada. Around grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, and I had not any exposure to French before that, and that was I definitely did not get an A in that class. I don't think that my teacher really liked me, but whatever, it is what it is.
My teacher loved me. I just stunk. I was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Science was more of my subject. I liked
shout out to
my
you, Dave
subject.
Bennett. You know who I know. You sometimes you watch the show, Dave. I went to high school with Dave. Mad love to Dave Bennett. Him and his twin brother did French immersion. Okay. I would not have.
That's like I feel like that's the way to do it.
French without those two dudes, man. Yeah. Honey P. Math was always I sucked at languages, but math was my thing. Robinhood. Whoa. We talked about this in part of the lesson of the day. As look what keeps on happening at Robinhood. They're loading it up every time it's underneath 47 on Hood. Loading it up. Loading it up, loading it up, loading it up underneath 47. So my gut tells me this. The day we don't test underneath 47, that's the day that we have a shot to break the high, right? Because it's like it's just not strong enough. Like the buyers are getting down there and loading up. And it's the day that you can't get that price that it's going to go. That's what my gut is telling me, because Robinhood is doing that another consolidation. Like the market's starting to look real healthy when you start to see these consolidations above the 50-period moving average. And the best thing about Robinhood is, unlike so many other dip buys out there, it actually has an upward sloping 200-period moving average. And another massive shout out to Brian Shannon for this, because this was something, and I want to say it was Snowflake. I hope I'm right about this. And if it wasn't Snowflake, the idea is still the same principle. Because I had a swing trade, and I want to say it was Snow. Why is this not loading? Move that 200 period further back out there. I remember swinging it, and one of the things he was talking about was be careful where your targets are when the 200 period is still downward sloping when you take a breakout trade. And when I got into the breakout, that hit home with me. He's like, well, and he said it live on the show, I remember, as I was discussing the trade. And I really did, this is something I had in my personal account. Like, you were still downward sloping at the point of breakout, so watch out for the first resistance. And so what did Snowflake do? Go into the first resistance and then curl. So I took profit on the way up into it, and then I trailed it out when it lost the 50 period. And it came all the way back to the entry point. So from now on, that's one thing anytime, I don't take a lot of swing trades, but if I do, I'm going to have a different level of respect for the things with a downward sloping 200 period moving average. Those are ones I want to make sure I'm getting that profit out there a little bit tighter. And the ones with an upward sloping, you let them run more, because it tells you the long-term trend is better. And that's what Robinhood has going for it. So I likey on Robinhood, but you got to break out this top, or you're buying underneath 47 into 45. Essentially on the hood. And Charlie, on mine, I use the SMA. I use 250 period simple moving averages. Old habits die hard because I use the moving averages for like more like long-term types of plays, and it's just what I've always done. I know a lot of people will use the EMA and whatever works for you. I don't have any, like I'm not considering this is the indicator you have to use, this one's better than that. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I just think whatever works for you is good, and this is what works for me, so that's what I use. It comes down to finding some kind of a pattern or setups that work for your own trading strategies, and then go from there. That's why I always try to talk through all of our ideas. But Hood looks very, very good. And HIMS, I do see HIMS. We might have been wrong about punching out of that one. It's also not going very far.
It's not really doing.
Like no, like
Market's bidding up as well.
Like it's giving you these shots, and like it's kind of trying to go, but it's not going. And then you see the, like as Obi just mentioned, you see the market continuing to bid up there. So yeah, it's not taking any L's on them, but we're also not getting that many big runs on the shorts either. It's disappointing, but
yeah,
not much you can do about it.
I'm just looking at yeah. There's not too much you can do about it. There's a bit of a chop coming in. And again, tomorrow is what? Tomorrow's FOMC as well. So a little bit of a chop. Yeah, maybe. We don't know. We see that, again, the market's looking for reasons to move around, right? It's like we saw what happened today or what's been happening on Trump comments, on, what was that last time? We saw the market move on a GDP number. That was like, we haven't seen that one in a while. So it's like, all right, what's really happening? Are we really moving on a GDP number, or are we just using volume to make moves? Right, it's like our algos or whoever participants just punching in into whatever kind of market catalyst that comes in. I have no idea. Again, that's way above my pay grade. But what I'm noticing is that we get really volatile on random reasons. Right, so it's like how do I kind of protect myself from that? Maybe calculate for some swipe risk at most. But at the end of the day, I just do my best to get into the better trades that are already a little bit, I guess, leaning for me, and then have the stop in and hope for the best is what seems like the best way to do it. But yeah, crazy volatility nonetheless on a lot of these things here. Participants stepping into the bid here, back into 109s on Palantir. Apple actually got all the way back up to 200, which was interesting as well. And I'm watching Pony as well. You were looking at Apple for the short 200? Yeah, I like that idea, and
it worked perfectly twice
multiple times.
This is why we
more of the same.
Hims. If not, and by the way, this candle was the start of the press. It's like that. Yeah, you had that midday move up that got faded everywhere. Like everything got faded on the futures on that midday candle. Like it popped up, and then there's your curl. So. Pretty much there was no shorting the 200 on that level because it wasn't clean. If you were shorting something off that level, it was AMD because AMD went right to $100. But $200, very, very clean resistance on Apple, but you could still break out to that level. I think if you're in the short, you have to already have taken that one, as far as I'm concerned. And AMD, just to show you guys what I meant, look at the $100 level on AMD. That algo spike took it right to the even dollar. It's really set up to go. If it didn't have earnings, there might be a late day scalp breakout on this trade. But on an earnings play, no chance. Not with what we've seen in this market and what they'll do to names that fail breakouts going into or on the earnings plays. And AMD is the big one here tonight. Just to remind everybody, we do have a bunch of names, but AMD, SMCI, Upstart are the big names. Randy will tell you Rivian's a big one as well. I no longer am in that stock. I might get back into it, but take the wins you can get.
Watching this interesting action here. It's a bit of a sandwiched action there. 109s was reserving, and then Buddy steps in on the ask on top of the 109 size at 109.01s, and then we trade a little lower. There's Buddy chasing it down with 400 lots. I should be pointing it out here so you guys can follow along. So where's that guy right there? There's Buddy right there on a bats, chasing it down. He was just in the 80s. Now he's in the 70s. So we've got a seller chasing down Palantir through VWAP. It is SSR. So I wonder who that is chasing it down there. But again, I want to kind of go back to Apple here. I'll let that one kind of deal with itself. Let's wait for imbalances to come out to see if there's anything on Palantir that we can work with. But as of right now, that 109 level still showing up as a bit of resistance, as it has pretty much all day on Palantir. So let's go back to Apple here. Something I do want to point out, Neil, is where to go. Let's take that out. I'm going to a 3-minute chart right here. So nice grinding bid. Again, Apple has been selling off since earnings. Today was what, day 4, day 3 earnings? Yeah, today's day 3 earnings, some strong selling as well. And higher time frame, we've been kind of in a downtrend. So earnings has been, oh wow, look at that. Would you look at that? Absolutely beautiful hitting of the bid there on Palantir. And yeah, seller chasing it down. That's a classic example of that. But that 200 level, again, Apple's been stepping down. That 200's been interesting. Today's the first day. It's kind of catching a little bit of a bid and has a relatively sideways to a bit of an uptrend here. You can see higher lows pretty much all day. You can probably draw a relatively clean line here as well that'll hold it up right there. You can see that boom, 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 boom. Nice clean hold into that 200 push on Apple. So interesting price action there. I'm going to come in tomorrow and be like, all right, well, is this downtrend from earnings continuing to hold or not?
So you know what? There was a question in the chat here, and it was from Wayne Griffin. He's like, where can I get the imbalance locator? And I said, ask your broker. And he said, I use E-Trade, and they have no clue. I can't speak for them. I can tell you that eSignal has the imbalance locator. I can tell you that the first month is free. And I use eSignal, Sean uses eSignal. There have been at least, when I was, all times I'm on the floor, at least a couple of people have been on eSignal at all times. It is one of the most reliable, if not the most reliable charting platform out there, real-time data, including level 1, level 2 access, including the imbalance locator, including indicators, including backtesting, including tick replay, API access, hooking up to your broker so you can execute trades automatically. Oh yeah, and the best part, free for a month. The first month is free. So if you want something all-in-one that's highly customizable to take your trading to the next level, and you make sure you scan the QR code out in front of you. They say it right there, trade smarter, not harder. We always believe in taking the least path of resistance as a trader. You're just trying to make money, and having the best tools out there is going to help you. So shout out to eSignal, scan that QR code. And just to answer the question again about the imbalance locator, look, like I said, I can't speak for any broker. But what I can tell you, if you have level 2 data, my understanding is then the data for the imbalances is in the SIP. So if you're pulling level 2 data, then whomever is giving you that data has the imbalance data, and it would just be a matter of building something so they can display it for you. And it's in our platform here at Real Trading, so we can see it. Right now, there's nothing big on the early look. I mean, NU's there for 1.2 sell, KO's there for $1 million early look, PCG 2.8 million early sell. So we can show that, and at 350, we can show you guys the updates and all that kind of stuff. But you got to ask your broker, and don't be afraid to ask your broker questions. Or like, why can't I see this? Or this isn't working. They work for you at the end of the day. That's something that I took to heart, as my time as a risk manager. I used to always tell the traders that when I was risk managing them, and especially when Sean and I owned our own floor, hey, we want you to make money. So if you need something from us, you need to speak up. If you want a buying power increase, you ask for it. If you want access to another market, you discuss it. You got to speak up, and I tell my kid that all the time. You got to be able to, you want to step your game up and take a shot, and always make sure you're getting the tools that you need. So I'm eyeballing. Obviously, AMD might try to break out. It's not really doing much of anything. We were in HIMS. I get it. HIMS. Ultimately, the follow through is happening on HIMS, but I made a gut call in the moment that it wasn't following through, and the bid was just a little bit strong. So we just take a small win a couple of times there on HIMS. Palantir as well. This afternoon, Palantir goes right into that same wall at 109.5. Couple of little small trades into VWAP, but that's about it. So Palantir, for all of that volatility and all that action this morning, bit disappointing. Like, it ultimately ends up not the things. I thought HIMS reversion would be great. I thought Palantir would give you more than 50 cents this afternoon, but it turns out Robinhood, Oklo ended up being where it's at. So shout out to anyone that's stuck with Oklo here. That's a big runner, up 11.5 points, clearly stronger than what I saw over there in SMR. And it's just as good holding that 50 period. Like, look for some continuation. And I'd probably pivot to this over trading SMR tomorrow, just based on the relative strength that it has. Of course, the headline being that Trump is, the administration's planning executive action, speeding up nuclear reactor deployment. So that's got these names a bounce. They all have about the same short float last I checked. 18 to 22%, whether you're looking at AAPL or SMR or NNE, they're all around the same level of short interest, which is part of the reason you get a bit of a squeeze.
I think continuation on those is definitely going to be important going forward. Again, when we start getting some of these, I call them presidential seals when it comes to the type of catalyst. So if you get the president's word on it, then maybe a little bit more confluence for the trade. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go in the direction you're looking for, but there's definitely more eyes on the ticker that gives more opportunity for other players being offside.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking for, more than being like, oh, the president says something, so I'm going to get long right now. I don't think that's not my forte. But we did see a trade like that come in, that 90-day pause. That was an insta-bid, right? That was an insta-bid. The reason why we were selling off was tariff uncertainties, and all of a sudden, boom, Apple broke that 200, you say?
It did.
Oh, boy. And that high day, where's that, 201 or?
No, 265.
Yeah.
65 is a high day on Apple, but you get one shot at that. Like, you get your 200 short, that's your scalp trade, 30, 40 pennies, and that's about it. So if you're not in it, you're not fighting it the second time through. I'm not taking the breakout here. I don't feel that great about this market move. One of the reasons why, and I don't know if I only said this once, the NASDAQ came right into 20,000 in the middle of the day on a volume spike and rejected the you-know-what out of it. And that was the overnight resistance. That was also like prior day where we hung out at the close. Essentially just went in, and the SPY did the same thing. Came right into prior day close and overnight resistance, and then sold it. So my thought going in there is, well, I want to be looking for fades off. I don't want to be caught playing late longs into big resistance, what we see as a big supply zone. That's why we took the shots at the shorts. And while they did win, they didn't win big enough, in my opinion. I know we don't... K4, Karan, we don't have the bounces out yet. When I show you guys before 350, or Sean does, or anybody does, these are the early looks, and you can tell because it says BRKR, that's from the broker. So when 350 hits, you'll see, I leave them up because anything that's big, I want to see what it was before and then what it is when it comes out. I like to have that information for myself. But then NASDAQ, you'll see all these be like NASDAQ and New York and ARCA for the NYSE American market there. So that's what you got to look for. In about 3 minutes or so, the imbalances will be out. Sometimes you get big ones on like NVIDIA and those types, but for the most part, it's the index actions that are the biggest, and there's none upcoming. I don't think there's any big ones yet. Like we haven't heard who's going to be the next big addition or deletion from the S&P. Like that's always a big.
But we can kind of look forward to and anticipate a few names. I think, right?
You can always make some guesses.
Yeah, you can always make some guesses, and maybe you can confluence those guesses with recent price action as well, because there's definitely players who are trying to front run a little bit of that push as well, right? So definitely stuff to watch out for. But yeah, I don't know off the top of my head who the next contestants for S&P adds and deletes are, but I can definitely go through some of those names and kind of look at the top performers of potential candidates, and then the weakest performers in the S&P as well, to kind of deduct what that might be. But yeah, just waiting for some of these imbalances coming in with only about a minute 30 left. Got Palantir here coming back into VWAP as well, so couldn't quite get past that 109.50. Again, more showing us a little bit more of the same. That 110, 105, 109 halves. Acted as a little bit of a supply once, twice, three times, and maybe coming in once again at that 109 half for that VWAP push right there going into the close. So yeah, I'm curious. I want to know what action and what type of imbalance comes out on Palantir, and maybe it's not Palantir. Maybe something else comes out with a strong imbalance, and we take one of those instead.
I like
but that Apple 201 for tomorrow is going to be interesting.
I like people are saying Robinhood. Why not?
What's going on with Hood?
No, for next to be added.
Oh, okay.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I get behind Robinhood. That makes a ton of sense to me. I think when we talked about this last time, and with Sean, Sean was here, and I know we talked about this, and I think Robinhood again was one of the popular ones. You basically just need a big company, like either like a big company gets like deleted because they get bought out, or someone does so poorly that they drop out. Like it's usually what you're waiting for to get somebody added in, right? Like somebody's got to come out, and you need that catalyst of somebody coming out for sure. So look, we have 20 seconds to go until the imbalances come through. Whoops. That's not my, there, that's better. So we'll show you live when they come out here. Don't know if there's going to be any big imbalances, but if there are, we will let you know, and you'll see it visually in just a couple of seconds. Guesses, obviously, some people might say Tesla or NVIDIA, those types of the big names. So Ford had a good day, 2.7 to buy on Ford, but I don't see any of the biggies. They usually give it a second for some of the NASDAQ ones to hit, opens a penny stock. Now I'll scroll. KDP, that's 1 million. That's really not going to do anything. Yeah, kind of disappointing on the imbalance locator there. See the Pfizer in there, but none of the big NASDAQ names are going to be in there. Ford had a great day today. 2.7 million to the buy side is not going to be much, however, on Ford. Ford's too small. It's a big enough float and too cheap of a company for 2.7 million to move the needle too much. For sure. Gotham House, a while ago, I was showing Rigetti and asking why earnings are this week. Okay, that's why people were talking about Rigetti. I don't know why it was running today outside of a lot of things have been squeezing that have short floats, but Rigetti reporting this week. These week are, oh my goodness, right above the 50-period moving average. You've got there you go. You've got this wedge. Okay, so this
kind of broke out of it.
No, it's already broke. It's already broken the wedge. You're long. If you're paying attention, you're long here already. Like you're long somewhere 950-ish on a breakout, or maybe you're just long this breakout at 980. Like you'd be in this trade. If you're playing this wedge, you're already in this long, and you're giving it to the break of the wedge down here, that's not nothing, because from a technical standpoint, you are risking 20% on that trade. And it's into earnings, so that could easily like trip you out. But that's a technical breakout on Rigetti. So shout out to anyone who's taken it. I mean, the funny thing about it is if you took that trade, you could have already been out for a $2 winner for 20%, 1-to-1. You've already taken some out in front of earnings. That's a great technical setup.
Yeah, I think looking at some of those like trend breaks on, it doesn't matter what frame you're really looking at. The concept is pretty much the same, right? It's like, are you breaking out of support or resistance? Holding? Is there follow through? Is there continuation? Is there volume confirmation as well? And then is the price action confirming as well? And that seems like it's filling a lot of pieces of the recipe there for a potential pushback up. And we've seen some of these quantum names and what they're capable of doing when they have the crowd on the side of the bid. But yeah, let's see if that can potentially come right back in. Yeah, Palantir. Oh, are we frozen? I'm frozen a little bit for a second there, and we're back on. All right, so 200 could not sustain there on Apple, Neil. So another opportunity to get short that 200 gives you about 70 pennies there. 109 still. So we're still trading around that 108, 109. Interestingly enough, this morning I was like, there's an important level on Palantir, that prior level, very specifically at 108.88. And guess what we're consolidating and chopping around going into the close? 108.80. It was just a prior low, right? It's very arbitrary, but like it was a specific price on a prior low. So that area is what I'm more concerned with. But yeah, we're chopping around there, trading currently at 108.91. So pretty close to that prior higher time frame level there. But other than that, not really seeing too much here on these imbalances to really get me interested in anything. We got Lucid with a sell, a little bit of a sell as well, but that's not really doing too much. Intel with a buy, Google with a sell.
Lucid reporting at 4:05.
Lucid is reporting today, so that one might be one to watch out for. But yeah, for tomorrow, we can talk about what I have on watch for tomorrow. Palantir for sure. Apple 200, 201, definitely interesting. Some fresh earnings coming in tomorrow. Yeah, those are definitely going to be on watch, but I don't know if they're going to be main watches or, not priorities. I have to wait for the morning session. You know one that is?
Rivian.
Rivian
Rivian has a history of being a good earnings trade. And it's because it's just the way that it moves. It's a cheap stock with tons of liquidity. It's what Neo used to be a lot of times. So it's looking really. And the best thing about it is it's already made a nice break off of support. So you're kind of in the spot where a move down and you're testing support, a move up and you're testing resistance, and they're one of the big ones. It's gonna be fast and furious after the bell. And shout out to Shree for stepping in. Sean away today. He'll be back tomorrow. It was track and field day for Gia today. For anyone wondering where Sean is, so Sean was being a good dad and supporting Gia out there. She was in the long jump. She did the 200 meters. He messaged me back and forth, so doing really well there. And he'll be back tomorrow. But stepping in, Sharif and Adair are going to be aftermarket show with special guest, as always, Brian Shannon. And as we said, it is a host of earnings that matter. Whoops, I don't need to zoom in. Tempest, Rivian, Clover, A-Lab, we've got ANET, UPST, Upstart, Lucid, EA Sports, AMD, and SMCI after the bell, Obi.
Yes, sir. And guess what? Traders that are funded by Trade the Pool have been cashing out big. We're talking about 5.3K, 15.2K, 36K, and even $29,940 on one trade. Here's how it works. You pay a one-time evaluation fee starting at $47, and that's your total risk. You trade real shares, not CFDs, using up to $200,000 in company capital. You keep 70% of the profits, no margin calls, no account blowups. Scan Trade the Pool's QR code and get 10% off and start your journey today with Trade the Pool.
Shout out to them. Make sure you scan that QR code, everybody. So with 4 minutes to go, there were no major imbalances to flip at 55. That's sort of the thing. A lot of times we'll show you, hey, watch out for this pairing off in the last 5 minutes, but there was nothing like that was of interest.
Nothing.
But I do, because Ford is on there, I just want to point it out again. Do not write off things like stocks like Ford. Just because it seems like it's boring, this was the easiest boring stock you could have ever imagined. I cannot remember the last time, and I have to repeat this, where a pre-market high break was literally just, this is $9.99. The pre-market high break at the open was a $10 even break. And then a pullback was the pullback right into not just the prior high. You like support to resistance? This is the lower high at $10.21 yesterday on Ford.
Beautiful.
This is the aftermarket high at $10.21. Where does the breakout pull back into? $10.21 to the penny. To the penny, and then look at the compression candle underneath. It's 2 cents higher. So you want to talk about risk to reward, you don't find, again, it's a reversion trade, everything about that trade, including this little ad above VWAP here, and look how clean that was. So I know some people are like, I'm not really looking at Lucid. I'm not really looking at Rivian. It's a $2 stock. It's boring. There's 2 million shares on the bid of Lucid right now, but it's done 110 million. But don't write them off just because they seem boring. Because maybe there'll be some kind of a trade on Lucid tomorrow off of the $2 level. Like, look at that low. It's 52-week low, sits at like 193. But these bottoms at $2, maybe it gives you a trade off of $2, and that's super clean. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you should be open to any and all trading opportunities, whatever they might be. You're just trying to be profitable at the end of the day. Whether it's hims and hers, Palantir, both of which give you ample opportunities. Apple. You want to trade $2 on Lucid. You want to trade 200 on Apple. You see this?
Yeah, watching.
Oh, you do?
No, on 200, I'm watching that one as well. That's, again, beautiful reversion.
Again?
You talk about that level showing up as supply, and it continues to show up as supply over and over again in intraday. So the question becomes, is this a bit of a level hold? Does it keep on working over and over again? Is the action or the trade a little broken, if you want to call it that? Yeah, a little bit. It's showing you more of the same. That 200 supply still stepping in. I was looking for that 201. I was like, I'm not getting long Apple until it can get past that 201. And guess what? Never got there. So I think it's been a solid short, nice little reversion into VWAP over and over again if you're taking any of these uptrend breaks for a reversion back down into VWAP. But that's not the way it's setting up, not really part of my playbook. This is a whole different kind of trade. I think this would be more closer to a range trade than it is, well, technically range trading might be a little bit reverty, like reversion trading, but maybe a different subsection of it there. But nice flush coming in the last minute. So wow, aggressive selling. There's the
really
sellers.
Selling coming in.
Boom, they're the sellers right there, waiting for the last minute to take out all the bids on this market. Absolutely beautiful action here. Is it catalyst driven? I have no idea.
NVIDIA
Have the
dropping
imbalances
like a rock.
changed? Absolutely not.
Well, Roberto says that AMD is going to be down 15% tomorrow. Maybe someone's getting a little bit antsy early. They'll be at 415, they're reporting. There's AMD, lost the $100 level, down to 98.5. The future is just tagged VWAP, and the NASDAQ is now almost down 1%. Pretty much everything. It wasn't just an Apple story. Actually, Tesla holding up pretty decently, but almost everything getting a major drop there. NVIDIA, for anyone watching. Whoa, wait a minute. See, now I forget because I don't actually hit it. Ring it right now. The market's closed.
Boom. Let's go.
I'm going there
Perfect
looking
timing.
at this flush in the market over like every, left, right, and center, trying to cover this for you guys. And there it is. Market closed. It ends up being a 1% down day almost for the NASDAQ and then 0.8 for the ES. But it was a lot of that late day move. Remember, we got a lot of earnings coming through. The first one we're expecting is actually TEM. So they should be right away. I don't see any movement on them just yet. Got to give a big shout out to Obi for filling in for Sean. He'll be back tomorrow, as I mentioned. Gia had track and field day today, so Sean was making sure that he supported her in that. And a big thank you to Fabian, Ramin, Andre, making sure we look and sound good. Big shout out to Joey Options, of course, looking sharp in a blazer the day after picture day.
Yeah.
I mean, the day after picture day, and he wears it. But looking sharp as always, brother.
Men's not hot. Men's are cold.
Men's are cold.
Maybe a little frigid. Men's are
And
always
always ice cold. But everybody sit back, relax. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is sit there, get taken to the best market recap you're going to find in the business. We got Sharif and Adair at the desk. We got Brian Shannon coming through. We got a host of earnings, including AMD, SMCI, Rivian as well for Randy. Let's go get it started. It's your market recap, and it starts now.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the Market Recap Show. Anair and I going to kick off a hell of a show today. Lots and lots of earnings plays to talk about, and we already have one. Adair, give him Tempest.
We do. It is Tempest. Apparently, revenue up 75.4% year over year. I need to get out my notes to figure out what we were looking for, but they reported revenue here of $255.7 million. I always like to be cautious because sometimes the revenue estimates I'm seeing are not the ones the market goes with. Regardless, this does look like a beat, $248.08 million. Quarterly gross profits of 99.8% year over year. They also announced a multi-year strategic collaboration with AstraZeneca. So it's unclear if this is a new announcement or if this is earlier and they're just recapping it. But they've also increased their FY 2025 revenue guidance to $1.25 billion. Anyone increasing guidance here has generally been a good look. Also, I'm just seeing comments coming from Mark Carney. Apparently, he asked Trump to stop calling Canada a state. So probably not market related, but either way, maybe interesting. 405, though, we're going to get Upstart, Rivian Randy, not Randy, just Rivian, Astera Labs, ALAB. We're going to get Lucid. We're going to get ANET. We're going to get Clover, EA, or Electronic Arts. We're going to get AMD and SMCI. AMD and SMCI is expected a little bit later. SMCI, I'm actually seeing 420. AMD 415, Sharif.
This is a handy beat here, Adair. Let's do a comparison of what we were expecting for Tempest and what we actually got. So on the left is the expectations, and it corresponds, Adair, with what you had in the notes. So thank you for sending me that. We were looking for revenue of $248.13 billion. What we ended up getting was $255.7. That's a 75% increase year over year. Not a bad look. How's that? In the first quarter, 75.4% increase of the first quarter of this year, and not quarter over quarter on the year. You also had quarterly gross profit increase by almost 100% year over year, reaching that $155.2 million. So that's their gross profit, guys. Not a bad look there. Announcing, as Adair mentioned, that multiple year strategic collaboration with AstraZeneca. And you mentioned this as well. Obviously, they did increase full year guidance. Let's have a look at the price action over here. It did work its way up into that $55 area, but true to form, as we always know, it is a spready trade and a very volatile trade after the bell. So they're already dropping below yesterday's closing price here, Adair, of $54. Let's talk about what we're expecting. Thank you again for preparing these notes, Adair. This is what we got. Upstart, we're going to get that at 4:05, so a couple of minutes. There's going to be a lot reporting, guys, at 4:05. Upstart, chief among them. Rivian as well. I'm going to be all eyes and ears for that one. A-Lab as well, looking to come in at 4:05, likewise with Lucid and A-Net. Clove as well coming in at 4:05, likewise with Electronic Arts, and then AMD and SMCI 4:15 and 4:20 respectively. Let's have a look at the Rivian and Upstart ones because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in that. EPS for Upstart, we're looking for profitability, 17 pennies here on revenue of around $200 million. The implied move here, a large one, Adair, 20.3%. The previous move was kind of a muted 5% in the negative. Rivian continuing to lose money. We didn't really anticipate that would be any different. The street's looking for 77 pennies loss per share on revenue of $1.03 billion, with the implied move being just a little bit less than 11%. The previous move, again, a very muted minus 2.3%. So we'll wait for those to come out. But Tempest here really going, Adara. Now it's catching its a nice tailwind there, breaking through $57, now up 5.25% after the bell. Just to give you some idea, this one closed out yesterday at $54. Today, just a little bit below 53, so already moving quite aggressively here. And if you're looking for areas of resistance, take a look at this May 2nd high into about 58.50, 58.75. We'll have to see if it ends up clearing that, Adair.
Yeah, we are. Good look here for Tempest. I'm still not seeing any of these other ones. They did end up having a smaller than expected loss per share, so they were a double beat. And again, I did mention they raised their guidance. I just got to stare at Labs, though. ALAB, they IPO'd, I believe, last year. Quarterly revenue up 13% sequentially, up 144% year over year for ALAB. That's apparently record quarterly revenue for ALAB. They reported $159.4 million, so that looks like a beat. I was seeing estimates of $153.34 million. They also cited strong demand for their Ethernet scale out. So good look for ALAB as far as I can see. Devon Energy out. Carvana earnings preview, so they're not out yet. Thank you for confusing me there, Benzinga. What do you have?
Rivian, guys. Nice. Rivian zigging and zagging here, really dropping. It just lost 13. So now Rivian down about 0.4%, but we know that that's not the final say. So here's the deal. Rivian reporting $206 million of gross profit on the quarter. Unlocked an expected $1 billion investment from Volkswagen. We had heard a lot about that. Where's the number, man? Where is the actual revenue? Having a look at that. Give me 1 second over here. So again, telling me the same nonsense. Not sure why they're not giving me the actual revenue number, but they did deliver 14,611 vehicles they produced, 14,611 vehicles. RJ Scaring saying this quarter we hit our second consecutive gross profit and our highest gross profit to date with $206 million. We have continued to make significant progress on the R2. That's what I want to hear, including vehicle validation builds underway and our normal Illinois manufacturing expansion is on track. Still looking for the revenue number here on Rivian. Let me have a look at another possible one. Yeah, not really. I don't know why they make these so convoluted. It's really not that hard just to give us a tab by tab analysis over here. So keeping an eye on any new numbers, not getting it quite yet, but that's what we got over here on Rivian. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we've got SMCI, we have Upstart, we have A-Net. I'll go over SMCI first. So net sales, $4.6 billion versus $5.68 billion last quarter and $3.85 billion on a year-over-year basis. So it was a year-over-year increase. Gross margin, 9.6% versus 15.5% year-over-year. So that is not a great look. I'll pull up the chart here. Net income, $109 million versus $402 million last year. So this is a really bad look here for SMCI. As you can tell, the market is reacting accordingly. Now let's take a look here
Upstart.
at
Just let me have a look at Upstart. Yeah, here we go. We're dropping 20% here, Adara, on Upstart. So we're down 20%. We closed out at about $52 yesterday. We're down below 41 right now. It looks like it was a beat on the top line. Upstart, we were looking for revenue of around $200 million. It looks like they printed a little bit more than that, 244 million. So it was a beat on the top line. We'll have to keep an eye for EPS as well as the guide. Upstart and Fortress investment. They're announcing a $1.2 billion forward flow agreement, whatever the hell that means. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's have a look at the other numbers that they mentioned over here. Still not getting it. It looks like they lost about 3 cents per share. The street was looking for 17 cents per share earnings. So they had a loss of around 3 cents per share. So yeah, a bit of a tougher look there, Adair.
Yeah, so that upstart, not a great look. We'd expect to move about 20%. Makes sense. Here's Arista Networks, though, because ANET, this one adjusted earnings of 65 cents per share. That's going to be a beat versus estimates of 60 cents. But sales, $2 billion versus $2.02 billion expected. So slight sales miss, but EPS beat for ANET. Let's see what else we were waiting for here to come through at 410. Lucid, I don't know, or sorry, 405. Let's see if we got Lucid up 0.44%. I'm not seeing Lucid. All I'm seeing is apparently they're strengthening their leadership team. Let's take a look for EA. EA looks like they did report. I'm going to have to go through this. This is their Q4 fiscal 2025.
All right, let's have a look at, no, this is not it. All right, keeping an eye here for Lucid. It's not really moving 0.85. Looking at the blotter to see if we can get some more information. Lucid sticks to annual production forecast even as tariff woes hit automakers. So not much of a report there. Still looking lower to see if we got anything here on Lucid. Not quite yet. Let's talk about what we have gotten so far. Tempest AI reporting, decent report there. It's up 3.2%, but it's upstart here, taking the cake for the biggest loser, down 18.4%. Rivian reacting kind of mutedly here, down 1.1%. A-Lab as well, kind of the same look, about 1.2% in the green. We already talked about Lucid. ANET as well, 2.5% in the positive as they report as well. We'll keep an eye out on that. Looks like this is the report here for ANET. So just to give you an idea of what we were expecting, we were looking for 59 pennies. We ended up getting 60. So it's a beat by 1 penny there on revenue of around $2 billion. It says it missed the $2.02 billion estimate. Really depends on who was making the estimates, because we have it here at 1.96. So possibly here a miss on the top line, but a beat on the bottom line for Aritzia Networks. It's positive 1.5% here in the aftermarket. We'll keep an eye out on Lucid, guys. Lucid going green now, up 0.87%. Likewise with Clove. Did we get Clove? Yeah, we did. All right, so here we go. Clover Investments, Q1 sales of $462.33 million. That misses the $4.99 million that the street was looking for. Again, different than the estimates that we had. I had $476 million estimate there. How about earnings per share? Have a look over here. Nothing yet with response to that. Clover Health reports first quarter results and improves full year guidance. So maybe that's why Clover is not going negative, raising guidance there up 0.6 here in the aftermarket. EA Adara. EA Electronic Arts reporting, and they're up nicely, 6.5%. Not a bad look on revenue of 1.55. Sorry, this is Q1 guidance. They're guiding 1.55 to 1.65 in revenue. Let's have a look at what they actually printed on the quarter. Here it is, Q1 net bookings. Again, this is all forward. Here we go. Let's see. EPS, again, this is all forward revenue, just having a look here for the actual results. And yeah, we're going to have to read through these because they don't come very easy to read, Adair. Anything on your end there?
Yeah, no, people are just asking about Rivian. We did go over that Rivian there, but yeah, they talked about their expected $1 billion investment from Volkswagen. Yeah, a lot of these is hard, especially when these reports are just coming out. They're not giving you little summaries. But AMD, we'll go over AMD. Like I always say, the estimates that I get are from Earnings Whisper. They're sometimes going to be different than the ones that the street goes with. They're usually pretty close. We're expecting earnings of 93 cents per share and revenue of $7.12 billion with an implied move of 8.5%. The previous move on AMD was negative 6.3%. So that's what we're expecting for the advanced money destroyer, as it is sometimes called. SMCI we were expecting later, but they already came out. And again, that is
they're guiding
quite
down,
steep,
by the way.
Yeah, it makes sense. SMCI guiding a little bit lower. Steep year-over-year drop, again, just to mention. Gross margin 9.6% versus 15.5% last year. And then net income $109 million versus $402 million last year. That is pretty rough, I would say, across the board, Sharif. But let's wait and find out what AMD has to bring for us, hopefully soon.
All right, here's the guide that we're talking about with respect to SMCI. $2.18 billion to $2.26 billion. So they're cutting their full year revenue forecast down to $21.8 billion. range, $21.8 billion to $22.6 billion. So giving you about $800 million worth of range there. It's already down 2.4% here in the aftermarket, but it did spike all the way down to that $30 area, being bought up now at about $31.50. SMCI disappoints, says Barron's. Let's have a look at this, see if we can read it a little bit more clearly over here. So where is the earnings? Okay, there we go. SMCI says it expects fourth quarter adjusted earnings of between 40 cents to 50 cents a share, below the estimates of 66 cents, so a weak guide there. Revenue for the June quarter is expected to be 5.6 to 6.4, also below the consensus of 6.65. We'll keep an eye out on that. Let's have a look at how they did last week. Supermicro said last week that revenue for March quarter would come in at around $4.5 to $4.6 billion. Before that, analysts had been expecting $5.4 billion on adjusted earnings of around 53 cents per share, down 2.8% here in the aftermarket. Adara.
Yeah, we're still waiting here just a couple seconds until we get that number from our friends at Advanced Money Destroyer, or I guess actually called Advanced Micro Devices. Our friend Lisa Su in the blue. Why is A-Lab going red? Asked Refrain Millionaire. A lot of these earnings names will give you a little bit of the shake and bake, as Obi likes to call it. Here's ALAB, just to go over that. Yeah, a little bit of a chop and a churn for that one for sure. But again, I want to get us ready for Advanced Micro Devices, which will hopefully be here at any second. We'll have to see if this ends up destroying money or duplicating some money. And if you're long or short, you might get it either way. Let's find out what happens there as we await these numbers. We're also waiting. Brian Shannon is supposed to come join us later as well.
We can talk a little bit here about Astra Labs as we're waiting for AMD, Adara. So the company achieved $159.4 billion in revenue. That's a 13% year-over-year increase. A 13% sequential increase on the quarter and 144% increase year-over-year. Gross margin was about 74.9%. That's good for a SaaS product. And operating income at around $11.3 billion. We'll keep an eye out on that. That ends up translating into diluted earnings per share of 18 pennies. AMD. Looks like something's out here. Joseph's freaking out. So let's have a look at AMD here. Adara up 2%. Go AMD, go. I don't have the data, but I have the response here. Breaking through 104, 105, 104 and a half, Adara, 3.5%. This one's really going right now. I don't have the report on it. Do you have anything on your end?
I got it. So it looks like diluted earnings per share, 96 cents. I was seeing estimates of 93. Looks like a beat. Q1 revenue, 7.4 billion.
Yep.
I was seeing estimates of 7.12 billion. That is a double beat for AMD. So good look for our friends over at AMD. And for Lisa Su, saying apparently that they grew first quarter revenue by 36% year over year and delivered significant earnings leverage as their business gains scale. That is according to their executive vice president and CFO. But yeah, double beat there for AMD, confirmed. Great look for Advanced Micro Devices, not destroying any money.
Here we go. We're going to show it in a way that this is how it should come out every single time. I shouldn't have to be looking for the data. I mean, makes it so convoluted. So $7.4 billion, Adara, in revenue. That's an easy beat from their Q1 of 2024. $5.4 billion was what they had. Gross profit of $3.7 billion as well. A million, excuse me. No, that's $3.7 billion, up from $2.5 billion last time. Gross margins, 50%, also increasing 3% year over year. Not a bad look here. Operating margin of 11% last year on the quarter was 1%, with operating income being around $806 million. That's up from $36 million last year on the quarter. You can kind of compare Q1 of 25 versus Q4 of 25 was a beat basically on every category. Good look here for AMD. We'll have to see how the street reacts to this tomorrow, but up over 4% and taking out that 105 on its way into 106. Yeah, bring in, yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brian, good to see you again. How are you today?
Hey,
What an interesting day it's been. All right, let's have a look over here. Brian, I saw you tweeted today about IWM, the Russell 2000 ETF, the weakest of the four major indices compared to the SPY, the Qs, and the SMH because it's below the anchored VWAP. Tell us a little bit about that, Brian.
Sure. I was talking about the anchored VWAP from the high of the year. So if you look at my screen, that's that red one right here. And that was made in February. So all the other markets, the semiconductors, they're above, right below it actually as well. But the S&P 500 still above the anchor from the year to date, and in fact, all-time high, as well as the NASDAQ above that anchor. So I'm kind of looking at those anchors from those highs as if we get a flush after the Fed tomorrow, for instance, 468, 470 in the NASDAQ is likely to be important, and 550 for the SPY. But that Russell 2000 just is behaving a little bit worse overall with it, stuck at that 50-day moving average, declining 50-day moving average in that anchor from the high of the year.
I know, Brian, you obviously look more at technicals, obviously, than fundamentals, but I got to ask you this question in any event. Are you keeping an eye on the Fed for rate cuts? Because we know how these small caps react. They're very interest rate sensitive. Do you anticipate some sort of move to the high side here on IWM? Should we get a surprise rate cut possibly in June or thereafter?
I mean, I think, yeah, that the market would definitely like that, but I don't think that a rate cut itself would do it. I think the anticipation of that rate cut, so maybe after we get this Fed meeting out of the way, and if the market starts to anticipate that and we see the odds, from the Fed funds futures start to imply that greater likelihood of a move, I think the Russell 2000 will start to rally in front of that on anticipation of the rate cut.
Understood. Got to ask you about Palantir as well. Great earnings report yesterday. I mean, they beat expectations on the top and bottom line. They increased forward guidance, and we're down 12.5%. Is this one of those ones where we buy the rumor and sell the news anyway in the short term?
I mean, the stock doubled off of the April
Fair.
low. It needed a rest. And, here the thing is, it doubled in the course of a little bit over a month. It broke to a new all-time high in that same zone. So a little bit of selling, a little bit of profit taking is not unusual. Anyone who's panicked about this, is really just got the wrong perception of what stocks should do. If you were expecting it to go to 150, you were definitely thinking about it differently than I was. But, I think we drift lower, maybe settle in towards the anchor off of the year-to-date low, which would bring us in that 100 level. And then we start to rebuild for another run because, like you said, the earnings were good and people still love this stock. So a little bit of profit-taking, rebuild, and continue its strength.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for being here with us today. I actually have a question here. We have two names reporting tomorrow after the bell that have been subject to a lot of short reports lately, AAPL and Carvana. So regardless of the earnings coming up, are there any trends that you're seeing or anything you like on either of these tickers right now?
Yeah, Adara, AAPL is, right up against this prior band of support that had been so important for it. It's still got a declining 50-day moving average, and it's up against the anchor from the election. So we've just run 50% from 300 to 500. So maybe a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news in there as well. It wouldn't be a surprise to me. Carvana also, I mean, it's hard to really think that an earnings report is going to attract new buyers here after we've just run from 150 to 260. These are huge percentage moves and they're great to have. So I would say if you're long these stocks, maybe lighten up your risk in front of these events because they have the opportunity to, show good earnings reports like Palantir, but experience a little bit of profit taking.
All right, Brian, thank you for being on today. It was obviously nice of you to come in, give us your time during all these earnings reports. I know there's a lot of charting to do now that we've got a lot of new levels.
Right on. Thank you.
Take care now.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys, let's go over the earnings report that we've got so far. I think we've had everybody report so far. Let's start from the top. Tempest AI positive, up 2.13. Did touch into that 57 area, still below that key area of technical resistance that we got into on the 2nd of May at around 58.50. Upstart, Adair, what did you say the expected move for this one was? The implied move was 20%. We're still within it, believe it or not. 16% to the downside over here, but it did wick off that 41.50. So we'll have to see. When we look at the implied move, guys, we're looking at the opening price the next day versus the close at 4 o'clock. So we'll have to wait and see where this one settles tomorrow at 9:30 when it does open. Rivian, My goodness, is there any body to this candle over here? We wicked up all the way down up to 415, drop below 13, 12.95, and now we're somewhere in between there at around 13.5. So Rivian indecisive at the moment, down technically 0.44. Likewise here with Astrolabs, very high wick, very low wick, 65 finding support, almost $80 there, $79.80 at resistance, and we're trading at around 71.42 Adara. So kind of looks like it's a middle ground over here. Lucid, did we get Lucid yet? There we go. Now we can report on Lucid finally. All right, here we go. We got a 20 penny per share loss. We were looking for 23 cents a share loss, so it was a beat there. How about the sales? 235 million. That misses 250 million in revenue that the street was looking for. Let's have a look over here if we can see whether or not we've got the actual delivery numbers. I'm not seeing that quite yet there. I don't know if you've got the delivery numbers on your side there.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
I got it over here. Here we go. So it does top EPS. As we mentioned, they delivered 3,109 vehicles and they produced 2,212. So that makes you feel that there was a glut of inventory from the previous quarter that they had to offload. They produced more than they delivered, or less, excuse me, than they delivered. So an interesting look here. As I mentioned, they delivered 3,100 vehicles. That's up 58%, believe it or not, from Q1 of last year. Doesn't seem like a lot, 3,000 as compared to Tesla, but relative to them, not a bad look.
Yeah, I was just going to say that 58.1% year-over-year increase is pretty solid here for LCID. I also want to mention really quickly here too with AMD, the guidance. So data center revenue was great. It was up about over 30% on a year-over-year basis, but they're guiding revenue here between 7.1 and 7.7 billion for next quarter. Analysts were looking for around 7.2. So lower end of their guidance, a slight miss, but midpoint definitely going to be a beat. So AMD generally a pretty strong report there actually for Lisa Su and crew.
Interesting look here, just having a read. Says, unfortunately for AMD, the AI story already somewhat tenuous, is likely to take another material haircut on the back of new China sanctions, wrote Bernstein analyst Stacy Raskin as he reaffirmed his market perform rating on AMD, but did warn the company's outlook may not impress shareholders. That kind of echoes what you said there, Adara, with the guide being a little bit light. AMD, nonetheless, positive on the day, still up, or aftermarket, that is, up 2.75%. So not a bad look here for AMD. Let me know if you want to jump in with
WW reported.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to go over that. So they're down a lot here. They have revenue down 9.7%, subscription revenue down up 57.1%. So like some decent subscription revenue, but their overall revenue is down. And then they have this sentence that they released. Looking ahead, we're engaged in substantive discussions with our lenders and note holders in order to take decisive actions with their capital structure and remain focused on strengthening our financial foundation to position Weight Watchers' future success. So they're looking a little, looks like they're a bit concerned here about their future. Down 9% in revenue, though. Again, that subscription revenue is not a bad look there, Sharif.
All right, let's talk about SMCI again, because I know this is one's a fan favorite. So let's show you exactly what we're dealing with here. They lowered their 2025 full year sales guidance from 23.5 billion to 25, all the way down to 21.8 billion to 22.6. The estimate there, irrespective of what they were actually guiding before, the street was looking for 23.94. So the guide of 21.8 to 22.6 is a decided miss. Now, how'd they actually do on the quarter? Q3 adjusted EPS, 31 pennies. That misses the 50 pennies the street was looking for on sales of 4.6 billion. That's a decided miss, Adara. 4.6 billion of 5.42. We're talking about almost $1 billion. How did analysts get it so wrong, or did the company really meet a headwind here? Are we actually starting to see some of the AI spend dwindle? Even though the Mag 7 names, they're not saying that. They're saying they're reaffirming how much they're spending in 2025. So it's interesting to look here.
I think SMCI is also its own beast. I think that's really important to look at too when you compare AMD with their strong data center revenue to what we have with SMCI. We already kind of knew it was going to be bad too, right? So that's maybe why they bounced a little bit. They had their preliminary earnings, which no one expected really coming through last week. It was bad. In comparison, they actually did have a year-over-year increase in sales, even though it missed estimates. So not all was that bad, but I think with SMCI, you always have to remember this company has been in trouble. They do struggle with reporting in a timely manner. They struggle with I honestly, Sharif, I think the nice thing is we didn't get just preliminary. We actually got a real report. So I'm going to give them credit for that and for that alone, because honestly, after last week, I was convinced we weren't going to get one for months.
Lowering the bar. We're lowering the bar. All right, let's talk about Rivian here, Adara, and how the tariffs may hurt them. They're saying that the tariff policies will make a dent in demand for their cars and obviously for electric vehicles. So they were guiding, guys. They were guiding 46,000 to 51,000 cars that would be delivered. What was the actual delivery? Is that for the year? Rivian said on Tuesday it's changing the landscape for trade policies. And now expect vehicles deliveries between 40,000 to 46,000 this year, down from a prior range of 46,000 to 51,000. So a bit of a definite drop there. The expected impact from tariffs will cause capital expenditures to come in between 1.8 to 1.9 billion for the year. That's going to be $200 million more than the prior range. So more capex coming from Rivian there. The new outlook came as Rivian reported a narrower first quarter loss of 545 million or 48 cents per share compared to a loss of 1.45 billion or $1.48 a share earlier. So they're shoring up costs, but it's not good enough. And we still have that tariff headwind that they've got to deal with. As I mentioned, revenue rose to 1.24 billion compared to 1.2 billion a year ago, but the street was looking for 997 million. So that was a beat there, not bad. During the quarter, the company produced 14,611 vehicles and delivered 8,640. That's not what you want to see. That is certainly it was almost half of the amount of vehicles that they produced, they delivered. That's a market miss there. Think about that. I mean, like, that's going to be a glut of inventory. So a bit of a tougher look. What I'll be looking for on the call, and I think a lot of analysts and investors will be, to see what RJ Scaringe says about that R2. It's the cheaper version of the R1S and the R1T, and it's the one that widely expected to be able to move the needle. It's more affordable, more mass market friendly, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of timeline they can get. There's also the R3, but we're not really expecting much in the way of R3 until 2027. They did talk about this, though. They have unlocked about that $1 billion investment that they got from Volkswagen. The investment is supposed to take effect on June 30th, so it looks like they unlocked it. They haven't seen the money yet, Dara.
Yeah, really quickly here, because I know we're getting a little bit over time. I want to talk about a couple headlines. Chef Joe, thank you for reminding me about this. I saw this about 20 minutes ago. CMG didn't move much initially. After hours here, it was kind of around this time. But basically, CMG announcing that Jason Kidd, formerly of Taco Bell, will be the COO of the company as of May 19th. So sorry for missing that one. It didn't move much initially. But Lucid here, I really want to mention this fascinating headline from their interim CEO. Interim CEO saying they might actually start production of their mid-sized vehicle in Saudi instead of U.S.
No.
Given the tariff impact. So that means that Trump's goal of U.S. production might actually have the opposite effect.
That's bizarre. But then they import them into the United States at what? Minimum 25%, right? We already know imported cars are going to be 25% more unless Saudi can strike a deal.
I'm thinking because they have the Saudi connections, I'm thinking that's probably why they made that decision. Again, this headline could be wrong. All I'm reading is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, for sure.
But we know because they have the Saudi connection, I'm actually not that surprised by seeing it. But either way, I just wanted to mention that.
No, it's a really good point, guys. And the market here is dropping on this news. So the NQ continuing to, that's the ES. I'll have a look at the NQ. The NQ dropping here after the bell, continuing to kind of move down a little bit from the closing print. We obviously lost 20,000 today. We tried to get above 20,000 momentarily there during the noon hour, but we were unable to. We did close out yesterday at around 20,060. So a bit of a negative day on all four major averages, but I do see it is now 4:30.
It is.
So we shall see, unless you have anything else to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, people are asking why the market's dropping. They're like, oh, does something come here from Trump? Apparently he posted something on social media. I'm not seeing it. But also it is.
Truth?
I checked Truth here.
Okay.
I'm not seeing a Truth. Most recent is from 58 minutes ago, and it has nothing to do with the markets.
Okay.
But apparently he just said he was happy with his meeting with Carney. But also, I want to talk, people are asking, why is the market moving down? There's more geopolitical turmoil coming out of India and Pakistan. It's a lot of headlines, just a lot of headlines about strikes. So that is, I just want to say that right now. And
there's more sellers than buyers.
The market's down because there's more sellers than buyers. So thank you, Obi. And with that, we say, oh boy, and good night to you all.
Take care. See you tomorrow.